Okay, so this is the board meeting March 6th with the Nevada Unified School Board of Trustees. And please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the board did meet in closed session. We will reconvene into closed session after our open session. And so we will just be reading the items that we were able to wrap up in closed session. So Trustee Scott, please.
Okay, so with every respect of item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, Subdivision D1, Conference with Legal Counsel, Existing Litigation, Rick Tucker versus Shalee Cunningham, Donald Scioli, NPAT Inc., Novato USD, City of Novato, Civil Case Number 140-19544. Update, direction was given. C, with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, Subdivision D1, Conference with Legal Counsel, Litigation, Rick Tucker versus Novato Unified School District, Shalee Cunningham, Civil Case Number 1604508. Update, gave direction.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to move move forward and approve the agenda as it is. Okay, first by Trustee Scott.
I'll second.
And a second by Trustee Nell to approve the agenda. All in favor? Okay, thank you. It's 6-0. And one absent. Trustee Millerick is not here yet, but he is on his way. Consent agenda. We have no comments, no comment cards. So I'm going to be pulling C and F from the consent. And anybody else would like to pull anything from consent? If not, I would like to somebody make a motion.
I will move adopting the consent agenda without C or F.
Okay.
A second.
First by Trustee Nell and a second by Trustee Aguila to approve the consent agenda excluding items C and F. All in favor? Okay, 6-0. 5-0. Oh, Tom's on here. Boy, I'm sorry. I've been saying 6-0. It's 5-0 for both of those items. So 2 absent, and Trustee Cooper is out ill. All right, so now we're here for our board study session. This is the California dashboard.
Yeah.
Yvonne, hi.
Hello, good evening. Well, thank you, President Butler and trustees. So this evening we're here to present to you an update to the Fall 2017 California Dashboard. So be Julia Kemke, our Director of Instruction Innovation, and myself. Because of time, we do have about 29 minutes. We are going to go through this pretty fast. We do want to engage with you in conversations and some dialogue, some questions. Feel free. This is a study session, so part of this is going both ways. Instead of us just speaking at you, we want you to engage with us and ask questions throughout this study session. You have the PowerPoint or the Google slide in front of you. So we're going to jump in. Objectives. So this evening is to provide an update. We're going to review our local indicators, review our growth and status on the following indicators there: chronic absenteeism, suspensions, our EL progress, graduation rates, college and career indicators, our academic indicators, and looking at math and English language arts. Yesterday during our district advisory committee, the group was able to engage around some of these indicators and we did an activity called the 5 Whys. We were able to go pretty deep into this data. In our group, we had our trustee Maria Aguila and Derek now in my group looking at the English language arts. So it was nice for us to go deep into that and have and we had the full day. So that's just an example of what we did yesterday. It was a very productive meeting. Right now, before we jump in, there's many type of learners, visual learners. I'm one of those visual learners, and we want to be able to show you through this video that Marin County Office of Education highlighted and recommended that we show our community as well as board members. So we're going to play this video. Enjoy.
Did you know that California has a new way to look at how your school and your district are performing? It's called the California School Dashboard, and it's basically a report card for your school and your district. The dashboard is used to take a deep look into the many performance areas that are key to preparing students for college and career after graduation. Ideally, your child attends a school that is clean and has the latest textbooks. A school that is a safe place to learn, where parents are an active and supportive part of the community. A place where your child is engaged, motivated to learn, and taught to think critically so that they can graduate well prepared for college and career. The California School Dashboard was put in place to make sure this is the story for every child, in every school, in every district throughout California. So, how do we know how well schools and districts are doing? The dashboard measures progress by looking at 10 different areas known as indicators. 4 of the indicators are measured by the local school district, and 6 of the indicators are measured by the state. The dashboard combines the local and state information to give a complete picture of how individual schools and districts are performing. So, how are the indicators used to tell a school and district story? Let's take a look at the 10 performance areas. Local indicators. These are the 4 indicators that measure the performance of a school district as a group of schools. They are measured by the local school district. Basic conditions. Students have access to the latest learning materials, such as textbooks, in a safe and clean environment. Parent engagement. Parents provide input and are involved in all school activities. Implementation of academic standards. Teachers are participating in professional development and using innovative strategies in the classroom. School climate. Students and parents feel connected to and safe in their schools. For each of these local indicators, the district will assess their progress using met, not met, or not met for 2 or more years. These are the 6 indicators that measure the performance of schools and school districts. These indicators are measured by the state of California. College and career. This is the percentage of students prepared for college and career after graduation. Graduation rate. This is the percentage of students who graduate with a high school diploma. Academics. This measures the academic progress of students in 3rd through 8th grade in literacy and math. English learner progress. This is the percentage of English language learners who improve each year in their English language proficiency. Chronic absenteeism. This is the percentage of students absent for more than 10% of the school year. Suspension rate. This is the percentage of students who are suspended at least once from school during the academic year. For each of these indicators, the state rates them on a color scale ranging from blue to red, with blue being the highest performance and red being the lowest. Let's take a look at how all this could apply to a school district. For example, in this district, schools overall are meeting their basic needs, implementation of academic standards, and parent engagement. However, they are not meeting school climate. Students are thriving where it is blue and green for academics, English learner progress, graduation rate, and college and career. However, this district needs to improve where there is yellow and orange for chronic absenteeism and suspension rate. The new California dashboard provides a more transparent and detailed look at local schools and districts. The ultimate goal is to help schools to continuously improve and be more equipped to address the specific needs of all students and prepare them to be college and career ready. The new California dashboard moves past looking only at a test score and allows you to have access to a more holistic view of your child's school and district. To learn more about the California dashboard, visit acoe.org and
Okay, so that's a quick glance. What we're going to be reviewing today, this evening. We're going to be looking at our school sites, our district data as well. This right here is a way to access the dashboard, and if you have your device, you're more than welcome to log in. The link is up there. It's www.casschooldashboard.org. That is, you have it in front of you. what you would do is once you log in, under the search, you would type in Novato. And then once you go into Novato, go into Novato Unified School District. Sometimes people go to Novato High School, and that's great if you want to look at Novato High School. But if you want to look at our district, go to Novato Unified School District to see that dashboard. Okay, in terms of the indicators, in the video they said that we're looking not just at one score, but at multiple measures, multiple indicators. So what you see on the left side, is the state of California. So the indicators that the state has are graduation rate. So Novato Unified, that's also one of our indicators. The state has academic performance, which in that case is math and English. But we have more than just the ELA and the math. We also are measuring third grade literacy. We're measuring our 8th grade readiness for Algebra 1. We're measuring our Algebra 1 success. So those are more indicators that we are giving ourselves to see how our students are performing and progressing. Suspension rate, we also have suspension rate. EL progress, we have the English learner proficiency, but we also monitor how our students are being reclassified. So that's another measure that we have in our district. Preparation for college and career, that's pretty broad. For us, it's the A through G, which is also known as the UC CSU eligibility. We're looking at career pathway enrollment through our career tech education, the CTE courses. We are measuring how many of our students are enrolling in AP, but also how many students are actually taking the test for AP in May. And then we're looking at how many students are dual college enrollment. So again, that's what we are looking at as indicators. And then the state has chronic absenteeism, and so do we through attendance. Just to give you a quick glance on what the state requires and then what we have here locally in Novato. What we have here is that we call the 5x5. You'll be noticing this throughout the presentation. Vertically is a status. This status is a measurement over 3 years. And then the change is on top. Horizontal is a change that has happened over 1 year. And the target is green. That's the state target. It's green, meaning proficiency. And we'll talk more about that. So that's when we get into the colors that you'll notice. So key messages. So what's the key message from this for our community? So this indicator is more than just a single number. Before it was the API score, your 800 or an 8. So it's more of just a single number. It's about equality education defined by more than just a single test, focused on equity, increased focus on addressing disparities among student groups. And this also supports local decision-making, more information to support local strategic planning process. And for us, you'll notice is through our site plan, our single plans for student achievement, also known as the SIPSAs. Our sites use the SIPSAs to really drive what they're doing at their schools and how they're using the funding. What you see here is before. So before, performance was measured by growth or achievement, but now it's measured by both growth and achievement. Before, performance was measured by a test score. Now it's measured through multiple measures that go beyond the student test scores, and that's what you saw through the graduation rate, the college and career readiness. So that's great that the state is now looking at what we call the whole child or multiple measures. So Julia's going to come up next. And again, feel free to ask questions at any time. This is a study session.
Okay, good evening. So when you first log into the California dashboard, one of the first pages that you would see is called the Equity Report. And we did share this with you last year. Our Equity Report is going to look different than what we saw last year because this is the new data from spring 2017 that's been updated. The other thing that has been updated are those local indicators. So the first part of the video talked about 4 local indicators, and actually we input these from the district level. So the county put on some workshops for us to kind of look through what those indicators mean, and I'm going to go through them right now. The first one being basic. So this is basically us reporting on our Williams Act. And again, this is what we've been talking about with the state indicators versus local indicators. The video covered a lot of this. I'm going to try to rush through a little bit just so we can get to some of the data in our dashboard. The state indicators are populated by the state. The local indicators we input from our own information. So that's kind of the comparison here. And for the local indicators, it has that met, and not met for 2+ years. So local indicators, we evaluate our progress and use some self-assessment tools. So we use some self-assessment tools and provided those to our teachers in the district leadership team around some of them, and some of them, like I said, we pull data from the Williams Act, and then other places that we go are the surveys for the parents through the Youth Truth Survey and looking at the increased engagement there. Oh yeah, go ahead.
So Julia, I was looking at the equity report, and
Yeah.
I was jumping in here online, and I just pulled up the Novato charter, and I was just curious, they don't have anything listed in the English learner progress, and I was just curious, it says NA, and I went to the spring of 17 and the fall of 17. Is it because it just wasn't measured? Because it doesn't, because when you scroll down at the bottom, it says, you know, met, not met, but are we not measuring that there? Or just curiosity?
So my guess, I haven't looked carefully at the charter school. I'm happy to jump in and take a look, but my guess is that if it says NA, there's not enough students there to have a valid measure that comes out. So I don't think they have a whole lot of English learners there.
Okay.
So I think they're not going to show any kind of progress on their dashboard is what I haven't looked at it, but that would be my guess, is they don't have enough student numbers. You know how if you have less than a certain amount, they're not going to show.
Okay. All right. I just thought it would say, like, not met, clearly.
So one of the things just to keep in mind that all of these state priority areas that we're talking about are also mapped to the LCAP. So when we start talking about the LCAP, how do we measure these things and what are our goals to make sure that we're meeting these state priority areas? And one of the ways that we measure it is by taking a look at the dashboard. The first state priority area is basic. It's basically us saying that our students have access to textbooks, materials, adequate facilities. So it's us taking a look at our Williams Act. And if we're meeting those requirements. You can also take a look at the SARC, because all of the data would be in the SARC as well. So in this category, as you can see on that first slide with the equity report, we did meet each one of the categories. So this being the first one, basic conditions at school. Again, the basic conditions at the school, and then priority 2 is implementation of state standards. And there's 2 different ways that you can go about measuring this one. We use the self-reflection tool, and we did provide this to our teachers that are on the district leadership team as kind of key members from each one of the schools to give us some idea on where they felt we landed. We used the tool that the state provided to us. Again, landing in the MET category at that one. Priority 3 is parent engagement, which I mentioned. This is a measurement of progress seeking input from parents in decision-making and promoting parent participation. And so again, we look at our survey in terms of having parent input and participation. We also would use a measure of our DAC, our DLAC, our PTA kind of committees to give us a measurement here. Again, it's kind of a qualitative measure, so they don't have specific data that you input, that you use a self-reflection tool, and then you come up with the score here. School climate, at this time we're using California Healthy Kids, so you're taking a look at whether or not students feel safe at school, and that percentage there, again, we've met. We have talked about potentially using the Youth Truth Survey for that, but because that's a comparison of not always not like schools, we'll probably have to consider that if we want to use that one or not. So that was like a rush through the local indicators. There is, like I said, we spent some time going through a workshop with the county, and they guided us to enter those indicators from our end. Next year, from what I understand, they'll be automatically populated from some type of data. They haven't really clearly said what data they're going to use to do that going forward. But if you go into our live dashboard, you'll see those 4 indicators at the bottom, and we've met all 4 of them. So most districts have those same? They do, yeah. The only ones that have 2 different ones are county offices ed, because they have other priority areas for expelled students. So you'll see a couple more on the county office of eds, but otherwise, yeah. So going back to this first page, so I kind of clicked us into those 4 local indicators on the bottom there, and now we're going to go into some more of the data, and Yvonne's going to take over on the chronic absentee.
All right, thank you, Julia. So we're going to jump in here to our first measure to look at some data of our students. So chronic absenteeism is 10%. When a child is absent more than 10% of the year enrolled here. So this is something that we definitely want to keep on monitoring. Our sites have processed through the what they call the SART, Student Attendance Review Team at the local site. At the district level, we have what we call SARB, Student Attendance Review Board, and this is where we intervene and work with the families. For our first data here, what you'll notice is our African American students are currently at a 17%. What you have is how many students are enrolled and what is the actual number of students. So here is 230 students enrolled, 39 have been chronically absent. That's a 17%. We have quite a bit of work to do here, working with our families. That's one of our next steps. Continue to provide that student engagement. So this is one quick data point that we have. Suspension rate, also tied into absent. If they're suspended, it means that they're not at school. So then it adds to it's adding to both the chronic absenteeism and the suspension rate. So what we notice here is for all students, it's green. It's a low, so that's good. We want it to be, and it's in terms of being maintained. Moving forward, the group that you know, what group would you notice that is more at risk here of being suspended or? So based on that, so right now they are orange. So for us, that's a concern. That's a concern that our students with disabilities are orange. Our students of 2 or more races are in orange. African American are yellow. They're not orange quite yet. Filipino. So we definitely are working a lot with restorative practices, restorative justice. Many of our sites are working on more of a consistent progressive discipline. This is one of the focus groups that we had yesterday in the District Advisory Committee and coming up with what are the next steps and solutions to address this. Our school sites, so this is a district view. Our school sites also have this that is just only their school as well so that they can plan. Yes, Trustee Gregg?
Yeah, as I read this report, it's interesting. I mean, obviously the colors are very helpful and kind of getting your first peek at things. But looking at the absolute numbers is something else too. That disabilities obviously stands out because not only is it orange, but 806, and it's increasing. As opposed to the only yellow on here, which is African American, and that's 218. Granted, it's a problem, but it's 4 times the problem with the disabilities. That's the total numbers. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was the kids impacted. I am sorry. It is deceiving, though. Yeah, I'm sorry. Never mind. It doesn't give you what it should, the actual number. Then, yeah, that's what I meant.
The next slide, what we have just to move us along in the next 10 minutes, is suspension by school. How many more minutes? 15? Oh, okay. All right. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, then we'll slow the voice a little bit more. I sounded like one of those auction people at the auctioneers. All right. So suspension by school. So right here, it's the data is transparent. It has school names. You can see in terms of what sites, are in red, in green, in blue. We have one school in blue, Nova Education Center, our independent studies program. The goal, again, is to be blue. The green is the target. So this is something for the school sites to take a deep thought and strategize and plan on what's happening currently, why is it, what's happening with our practices, and what are we going to do to improve. The dashboard is all about improvement. That's what's all, it's about accountability, but also improvement and building those next steps. We're going to jump into graduation. So Julia.
So under graduation, this is probably one of the highlights of the dashboard. This, again, is showing progress over 3 years. And If you notice this one, there is probably one group of students again that's kind of standing out to us, and the students with disabilities who are orange, meaning that are low and they've declined. Right now, low being 84.6% are graduating as compared to all students, which is at 96.8%, which is very high, or compared to our white students is 98.1%. One of the things that I do want to mention is that we also use the dashboard we call all this out in the LCAP and identify strategies that we're using district-wide to support. One of the things when we met with Kelly and we were reviewing this with our director of special ed, she mentioned that our instructional coaches are meeting with her special ed teachers either tomorrow or in the near future to talk about some support that they can offer the teachers in their classrooms in particular, and making some of the integration between special ed and the mainstream classes. So definitely, as we go through the dashboard, you are going to notice that students with disabilities is one of the areas that we've noted throughout all of the dashboard that we need to target and make sure that we're providing the support to the teachers and the students to ensure they're going to be successful. So again, here's the 5x5 table showing our students on where they land. This isn't by school. This is another way to display the data where you can see by student group on where they're landing. And part of the reason that is because there's only 2 schools that are showing up for the graduation rates. They don't show that by school. It would be 2 schools on there, and I believe both of them are showing up as blue or green. So the next indicator is actually a new one that they've just recently populated, and you'll notice that they don't actually have the little Trivial Pursuit items on this, and because they haven't updated the data to reflect the change. So the status is kind of where we currently are at compared to what the state is at. The change is what will give us that Trivial Pursuit like little indicator. But this is bringing in, and we're still working, going to talk to our friends at the county on getting a better understanding of this one, because if you look at all of the different indicators that go into this one, it's pretty complex. And I know that they would make a percentage of students considered ready for college with a mixture of some of these. So some of it's going to be the academic indicators, and then whether or not they're taking an AP test mixed in with dual enrollment. So this is an up-and-coming one that will be very interesting to see on exactly how they're calculating it. I couldn't find anything on specifics, so once I have that information, I'll pass it along to you. But and it's fairly recently that they updated on the website. So moving along, the next indicator is the English Learner Progress Indicator. Oh, yes.
Just going back to the career college indicator.
Yes.
For the dual enrollment and the AG completion, do you know if is that going also back the 3 years for the data?
So right now, because they don't have the little Trivia Pursuit, that means they're not showing this change over time. I think eventually they're going to pull all that data in. So hopefully after we have like spring data next fall, we'll begin to see that kind of change over time.
Okay.
But right now it's just showing you status, percent prepared is basically what they're saying. And they have some kind of algorithm in which they determine that. So with the English Learner Progress Indicator, again, it's a little convoluted on how they come to this, but it actually is good news in a lot of ways, because it doesn't just say, it shows progress over time on how well our students are moving towards being redesignated. And essentially what they're pulling in is if you're an annual CELT taker who increased at least 1 CELT level, plus the annual CELT takers who maintain proficiency in advanced area, so maybe they're not redesignated, but they're maintaining it early advanced to advanced. ELs who were reclassified in the prior year, so they're looking at even your redesignated students, and then your long-term EL students who increased at least 1 CELT level. And then you divide that by the total number of CELT takers. So Soon that's going to change to a new test, so it will be interesting to see how this indicator looks. But you'll see for us right now it is yellow, meaning that our status is high. Overall, we have a good amount of students who are making progress through the Psat levels, but we saw a slight decline of about 4%. And what I would like to know, but it's not shown, I can't find that data, and I'm going to see if I can dig it out, is why? Where are they declining? Is it a particular one of those groups that I just mentioned that declined, or was it an overall decline? That type of information, and we don't necessarily have that. Some of the stuff we might have to do like the math for, so. But that's, and this one is a very recently updated indicator as well.
So I just ask a question about that. So I get that the yellow, it's yellow because of the decline. But the 78%, without that decline, if we say held steady, we probably would have been green.
Green. Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. I'm wondering what kind of is built into the algorithm that catches the delta. In other words,
right?
Because you know, the stuff up here talks about just where we are right now, right?
Right.
Although, and the change in that. So that's a little opaque, I guess. Is what I'm trying to say. Okay. And ultimately, this is going to be something that's going to go beyond this room and into realtor offices and that kind of stuff. And it's going to be interesting to see how that opaqueness impacts this community just because it changed from green to yellow. So anyway, that'll be interesting.
It will be interesting, I agree.
Okay.
The next slide is, again, this 5x5. And if you are in the dashboard, you should see kind of a link. If you go under English Learner Progress, there should be a link there that, trying to see, I have it. It says view the 5x5 placement report for this indicator. If you click into that, then you can see that 5x5, which is another interesting way to see the data. This one is showing you the school's progress. And again, this is a pretty complex measurement because first you're pulling in all that different data around the students, and then based on the type of students who are coming to us, some of them are going to make progress depending on how much academic preparation they have coming in, if they're a newcomer. All those types of things kind of play into what it looks like. But the schools are aware where they're falling on here, and again, our LCAP calls this out in particular if there are particular schools that need attention, and you'll see some in orange, meaning that they decline significantly, but they're still high. Where we have a couple that are considered low and also declined. So. That's correct. Yeah. You still have these students and you have to serve them. It sort of calls it out a little bit. Yeah. And certainly we are doing a lot to target the students at high school. It becomes a more complex issue for our high school students because if they are coming in as newcomers, they don't always come in with, they may have or may not have had formal education, which makes it more, I'm not excusing anything on there, but that's part of the complexity that goes into it. The next indicator is for mathematics. So I want to be real clear on this because I'm not sure the reasoning or the rationale, but all of the academic indicators right now does not include data from the grade 11 assessments. So this is purely looking at grades 3rd through 8th grade. I'm not, and I guess that's because they're calculating it into that college and career readiness indicator. But just so we're clear, this is only 3rd through 8th grade that we're looking at. And here we do have some more, obviously there's additional student groups that we're seeing that both declined and are considered low. Now, this is slightly different than the way we used to measure academics. So the way we used to measure academics, remember, it was like % proficient. So if you had 50, 60% proficient, that would be kind of how they would measure you. What they're measuring it by now is your distance from 3, your average distance from 3. And what makes it complicated is that your 3 is basically standard met for the grade level. That number that mean score or the scale score for each grade level changes as the students move up through the grade levels. So I couldn't take all of those and then get the average for them in order to figure out our distance from 3. So the state is using some kind of algorithm to give us that indicator. So if you see students moving further from 3 down is where you're going to see that decline or declined significantly as the average number of students decline. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we see a lower percentage of students being proficient. In our case, it does. I'll show you the data in just a second, that it does mean that we see less students being proficient on the test as a whole. But it could mean that some students decline significantly and other ones increase, but that average is the distance from level 3. So hopefully that makes sense. It is a little bit more complicated way of looking at it, but it does show you growth over time, and it brings in a little bit more, I guess, robust data than what we're usually looking at. So here's, again, our students are displayed on this table. We didn't pull, if you do want to pull by school, you can click on, there's a link at the top of this one as well where you can go and look at school, but you'll see our students displayed here on the 5x5 again. So the last piece of information, because this has kind of come up in informal conversations around the data, is how do we compare to the state on some of these academic indicators, because there was kind of this, as you can see, alarming amount of our students that are in this orange area, meaning that we saw this decline over the last 3 years. So in order to do this graph, had to do a little math in order to pull it out, because you have to look at the average. And this is looking at proficiency. So trending with the state, there are some similar, movement where in the first year of the test, 2015, we saw growth from 2015 to 2016, and then 2016, 2017, there was a slight drop. A larger drop for us, and then the state saw a slight increase. But you'll see that the state kind of hovers, and you'll see the same trends with our English language arts data, where the state doesn't have a whole lot of movement. We also looked at some of our comparable districts, and they also saw a similar drop with their academics, in particular some of those student groups. But certainly math is one of our focus areas as a district. We have a lot of PD, and we continue to do a lot of professional learning around the shift to the new Common Core. The questions are quite different. And we've done some of the interims recently in order to get a better understanding of what the test looks like. And the interims look a lot better, which is really helpful for our preparing for the test in spring. So I'm going to hand it over to Yvonne, who's going to talk about English language arts.
Thank you, Julia. So English language arts, this is for grades 3 through 8, again, just like we were looking at math. What we see here is on the change on the far right, all of our students, groups, except for African American and American Indian, declined this past year. So there was a decline. Again, going back to what Julia was saying, we did outperform the state in the overall for all students. You'll see again some red there. Our students with disabilities have a red indicator. So again, that shows that we have some work to do in that area around English language arts with our students with disabilities. One thing that we are working with our special education department is looking at what programs do we have in place that are going to help increase this number. What summer programs do we have? We currently have ESY, Extended School Year, looking at putting some more rigor, robust, getting that program up to just increasing more support, more services there. And also working, moving forward for next year, also looking at our standards, going deeper through our professional learning with standards. What you see here is the data compared to the state. You see the state leveling off at about 47%. This past year, we did go down about 6%. So the one goal that every district wants is always to do better than the state. That's a goal. Obviously, you also always want to improve. That's another goal, is to always improve. With the dashboard, the goal is to be green. So that's the goal that we want to do, is go, be green. Ideally, blue is the best in terms of the dashboard as we're being looked at. Moving forward for next steps in supporting all of our schools and looking at that growth is to work with our school, report on the school trim tabs. Jim likes to use trim tabs, so we're going to stay with that trim tab, also known as strategies. That's another way people call it, is strategies. Is based on our updated data in the SIPSA. So really look at our single plans for student achievement and how are our schools going to look at this data and be able to, moving forward, strategize and put action steps to increase this service and growth for their sites. Look at our indicators. We're going to look at the LCAP. So hopefully, yesterday what we did in the District Advisory Committee is we looked at the data and then we correlated with the LCAP. So currently the strategies that we have in the LCAP, do they support the dashboard? Do they support our equity imperative? Are there actions there to help us close the achievement gap? One big piece is to ensure that our data is clean and accurate. This is data inputted by the sites and the districts. So our sites put quite a bit of data in ARIES. And essentially what the state does is they take whatever we put in ARIES and they do it in October during the CBED. So if we're putting data that's not accurate, the state's just taking whatever we give them. So we got to ensure that the data that we put in there is accurate, because that's how they're measuring. They're measuring based on what we're saying. The only data that the state uses on their own is the spring test, the SBAC, for example, or the AP test. Those come from a different outside source. But a lot of the suspensions, we do that. The truancies, the attendance, we do that. So a lot of this data, we have control of it. So we got to ensure that we're putting the data in correctly and through ongoing training. And the last one is correlating our school goals with the trim tabs, our strategies, to the success indicators. So this is quite a bit of work working with our site leaders and their instructional leadership teams. All right, questions, comments?
Anybody? Yeah, wow. A lot of them. No. But it's, yeah.
So one thing that I don't know that we ever really reported out is the validity of the SBAC is actually coming under question by a lot of professional educators. I belong to a Northern California superintendents group, and Patrick Sweeney in Napa, who's actually retiring, was kind of leading the charge that says the SBAC, I think, has 14 states that are in it. Every state in language arts and in math, every state went down. And statistically, that's supposedly not be possible. So it's not just California, it was all the states. So there are a lot of professional educators who are really questioning the validity of the SBAC, to the point that we actually took a vote as Northern California superintendents as to whether we wanted to really make a public statement about that. But the Southern California superintendents didn't go along with that. And that's not to make excuses, but there's so much writing on these tests that we're really hoping to get their act together, because if you have 14 states and every single state goes down in math and language arts, that's an anomaly that they're saying is not. And I'll send you guys the article to look at, but it's just something to keep in mind. We're not the only district or state that's going down. Every single one that was in that, there's Park, I think, and SBAC, and or whatever, we're SBAC. And okay. So just something to be aware of.
Okay, no comments, questions. Thank you very much. I know we rushed it, but it was very valuable. We needed to get the update and continue to keep us informed on any changes or additional information. Yes?
The other thing is we are I know we mentioned this to you before, but there's a lot of information going on about the dashboard and things, but we are partnering with the county this year. Santa Fe and Novato are voluntarily partnering with the county about working on some of our areas for improvement. So they've come and worked with us a couple times. They helped go over this dashboard with all of our principals, because in the future, if you, I don't know what I think they're still figuring out what the accountability is going to be for all this, but if you don't meet a certain number of indicators, then you're going to be referred to the county office for assistance or whatever. So the county doesn't really know what that looks like yet either, but I just wanted you to know we're partnering with them to try to get some help and advice on strategies. But the state is putting accountability systems in place for this, so the districts will be held accountable if I don't know what it's going to be yet, but a certain number of measures, you're declining, or you're whatever, orange or yellow on a few of those. But so we're working on that partnership right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that concludes our study session, and we're going to move right along to our student presentation. Justin Morey, Principal Justin Morey. Hi. Your whole school's here. I know. The most important students are here, right?
Yes. So good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us. I don't have much to say other than to introduce Marissa Page, the 7th grade science teacher, who's going to talk to us a little bit more and introduce our students, and then they're going to be presenting their Project Green School work. So, Ms. Page.
Good evening. Gotta move that. I am Marissa Page. Thank you so much for letting us come here tonight and share with you all of our hard work. I teach 7th grade, so you'll see 8 wonderful 7th graders here. They are going to be sharing their projects that they have done called a Project Green School, in which they identified environmental issues on campus. They collected quantitative and qualitative data about those issues. For example, several of them interviewed the custodian or the principal, or they counted different phenomena on campus. And then after that, they used that data to then design solutions. So tonight you're going to be watching some iMovies that they've created. You're going to be hearing sort of an introduction and concluding thoughts from them. And then if there's time, then you're welcome to ask any questions or share any likes or wonders that you have. So we will be starting with our first team that's going to talk to you about the problem of compost contamination. And then, should I just press the play button here, or for them once they start? Yeah, let's see which is which. Let's go ahead and have the compost team come on up. Okay, let's start. Okay, and if you guys, you can stand however you want, maybe 2 people on either side of the screen, and I can click the play button for you if you like. Can you actually talk into the microphone? Would you prefer that? Okay, we'll have to talk. Yes, that is better. Yeah. Is it adjusted for you, bud? Yeah. And then it'll be probably the same for you guys. There you go. Okay, let's have you stand. They're not used to this particular formatting. Yeah.
Hi, we're 7th graders from San Jose Middle School. We want to share with you a short presentation on an issue at our school. And this is Noah, this is Taylor, this is Kaveh, and I'm Nick.
The purpose of Project Green School is to make the world a better place by implementing ideas that we make inside our classroom.
The environmental issue our group chose to research is contamination in the compost bins at SGMS. Students and staff aren't taking the time to sort their trash from their compost and recycling, and because of that, decomposers are dying, which will eventually lead to the ecosystem collapsing.
Our solution to this issue is buying these sets of triple bins, which means there are 3 bins connected, landfill, recycling, and compost, so students and staff can easily go up to them and sort their items.
Here is our iMovie. Hope you enjoy.
People like Noah are the ones that are destroying our ecosystem. Several students at SJMS are ruining all our ecosystems by throwing these type of plastic bottles in the compost.
Oh, hi, I'm Taylor. Hi, I'm Kaveh. And this is Noah. Hi.
Okay.
Our environmental issue is the misuse of compost bins of the SJMS ecosystem. Students at SJMS are killing our ecosystem by contaminating the compost bins. Stuff in the compost bins are given to decomposers so they can break it down and make nutrients for producers. But if they have a non-compostable item in the compost bin and decomposers try to break it down, they can't digest it and will probably kill them.
If decomposers die, then producers will have no other protocols to receive nutrients from.
You can compost items such as food scraps, soiled paper, and plants.
Items that are not compostable are glass, metal, and plastic.
When you're contaminating the compost bins, you're actually killing the ecosystem. And here's why. When the earthworm eats the dead organisms, it breaks it down and gives nutrients to producers. But when the earthworm eats a non-compostable item such as plastic, it can't digest it and will kill it, which makes no nutrients for the producers. The producers can't survive without these nutrients, and they themselves would disappear from the food web.
Some qualitative data that we collected is when we interviewed Mr. Bill, we said that we need more communication in order to have better composting throughout the school.
For our quantitative data, we inspected all the compost bins in the school and found many non-compostable items. Here's our graph showing all of our results.
Hey! So our solution is actually buying these triple bins, which means that there will be 3 bins connected: landfill, compost, and recycle. So if you walk to one bin, you have all 3 there so you can sort your trash easily. To fund our project, we'll be using Donors Choose, which is a crowdfunding website primarily used by teachers. We'll need to raise about $3,000 to $4,000 for 4 sets of these triple bins.
Should have fixed that.
Another part of our solution is to make more signs on the compost bins because the ones right now aren't that noticeable.
People that will be involved is our team, Nick, Noah, Taylor, and me, Kave. And we also needed granting permission from Mr. Moore and several other important people in the Nevada Unified School District.
A lot of the trash on the ground will blow to the SJMS fields due to the wind. It's not good because animals could mistake it as food and eat it, and those toxins will spread throughout the ecosystem and they will also get sick. If students start to throw away the trash, landfill, recycling, compost, everything into the correct bins, there will be less trash on the ground, and the people that pick up our bins will most likely pick up the compost bins, which they haven't been doing since it hasn't been contaminated. So as a long-term solution, if we use the triple bins correctly, our ecosystem will survive longer. Plastic is a common item found in the compost bins, but it's actually a contaminating item and it can be recycled. Plastic is made out of fossil fuels, which we have a limited amount of. So if we put it in the recycling bins, we can reuse it.
Okay. There were some parts I should have fixed. Applause was a bit late.
Anything else?
Oh yeah, people are not using the compost bins correctly because people are wanting to either be lazy and only open one bin and throw all of their trash in there, no matter what kind it is, or not go to any of them at all and throw it on the ground, or any of these things that you can just see by looking around.
Next steps we can take to resolve this problem is have more communication throughout the school, such as posters or just friendly reminders to your friends.
We would also gladly accept a grant. Thank you for watching and listening to our presentation.
Good job. Well done. Really good. I mean, you did your homework. I learned a little bit, and when I go on the San Jose campus, I better throw it in the right spot, in the right bin. I think Nevada's Disposal was going to be very happy with you making sure it gets separated properly. They would appreciate that very much, I know, on their end. So, good, really good.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What do you do with the composting? Do you have Nevada Disposal pick it up, or do you get to do your own composting at San Jose?
Can we do a combination of both?
Nevada Disposal.
Just disposal? Okay.
I went to San Jose Middle School. Back then it was called junior high, back in the days. And now, I mean, I'm just so grateful that you guys are doing this and you're taking a lead. So congratulations.
And you're 7th graders, so you'll have a whole nother 8th grade year to make sure this gets really implemented. Yeah. You're not just stepping away from it. So, good job. Great. Thank you very much.
Good job, guys.
And now we will have our second team talk with you about challenges with particulate pollution.
Hello, my name is Tay, and this is
Robert Little.
Patricia De Palma.
And Daria Crosso.
the purpose of Project Green School is to make the school a better and more eco-friendly place. Our selected environmental problem today is the track.
Students are running constantly on the track, either if it's for the mile and the daily run. And when the students are running, many small particles of dust and dirt are kicked up all the time.
When these particles are inhaled, students can experience trouble breathing on top of already existing allergies such as asthma. Apart from particles being inhaled, students can become tripped or cause injuries on ditches on the side of the track.
We plan to solve this problem by reconstructing our dirt track into a new rubberized track. Already eliminated the problems of ditches and the inhalation of small particles. If we do decide to install a turf field as well, we would be saving massive amounts of water.
To fund for this track, we will request a school grant.
Day. The air is filled with tiny toxic particles that stick to the lungs.
It's hot, it's humid, it's hard to breathe. This weather is making it unbearable for people with certain medical conditions.
They say the smoke in the air can irritate their lungs and have serious side effects such as wheezing and shortness of breath.
It can be dangerous for people with breathing problems.
Breathing disorders.
Breathing difficulties.
Breathing difficulties make
Breathing problems.
Serious breathing problems.
Lung trauma if it's inhaled. Our solution is to make a rubber or latex track instead of this decomposed granite track. Not only does this problem affect humans, it affects animals and the environment too. That's best for us dogs. Many animals like birds inhale the dust, and it puts them at risk since they have such small lungs and they don't have noses to filter out the dust. 6% of the people in the world have asthma. If you think about it,
2,000 years.
Translates to about 420 million people in the world with asthma. Rubber used in a latex track is natural and non-synthetic, unlike most of the other tracks in the USA. Rubber and latex track, when it's raining, we probably won't have to go in the gym, and it will eliminate the problem of people falling in ditches like these. Like these. Like these. These. Like these. Like these. 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 Really like these. For track, we will use a school grant and we'll hold fundraisers. These will all be used and all the money will be contributed to the $50,000 to $1 million track. Particles are so small that they are being inhaled with no one noticing, and this problem affects people and animals at SJMS. It will positively affect us in the long term because we will be able to run on the track during rainy days, and there will be less injuries due to twisting ankles or hurting your knee on the track. Can we do this? We can do it! Yes, we can! This is for you, SJMS! We will use that renewable energy instead of that non-renewable stuff. We will do this! We can! Are you with me? Yeah!
Like said in the iMovie, the total cost of this track will range from $50,000 to $100,000. But because our track is smaller, it will be on the lower side of the spectrum. To support this solution, students can help raise money to lower the cost of the school grant. As students and 7th graders, our role in the ecosystem is to keep it clean and safe from any main dangers. As humans, we must keep our ecosystems clean so that the organisms living in them, including us, can survive.
During Project Green School, we have learned many ways to keep our SJMS ecosystem safe.
Aside from that, we also learned about organisms and the role they play in our ecosystem. Thank you for watching. We'll now take any questions and comments you have.
Good job. Comments, questions? Yeah. We've had many facility conversations here at this board table, and the San Jose track continues to come up. So we are well aware that the track needs some improvement for sure. And you definitely highlighted it there. So
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
I'd like to assure the rest of the board I had nothing to do with this.
Yeah. Yeah. So another really great job. Thank you. Ms. Page, you did a great job, and getting them to facilitate this is not easy, and they came together, and it's collaborative, project-based learning, all the things, communication. So
yes.
Good job. Thank you.
Standing in front of us, good job.
Thank you.
Okay, so as they move along, we're going to go to announcements. So we'll hear from our student board members. What's going on at Novato High?
So as of yesterday, the WASC group showed up at our school. So they're checking around, going to the classrooms, asking students questions about what the curriculum they're doing is at the moment. Personally, I haven't been asked yet, but they've come into my classroom once or twice. Sophomores are just now rounding and finishing up their sophomore speeches. It was probably the most stressful part of the year so far. I'm glad it's over, for me at least. Just recently, I would say last Tuesday, I had a meeting with Marin Transit about their bus schedules aligning with the school schedules. So that was very informative, and we learned some insight about how they schedule the bus schedules around the schools. Jeff went to a DAC meeting yesterday. I was not able to attend due to unforeseen reasons, but yeah. And we, as of last Monday, I believe, we were looking at the U-Truth data from the survey that was put out over the school, and yeah, this all has been happening.
Thank you.
So, as he said, I was at the DLAC meeting. That was interesting. I really liked it. We were in the math group, and that was just really interesting to see how everything like laid out in the results and how everything came out. I mean, not gonna really talk about what happened, but that was interesting. My school got vending machines, which I haven't been here to like report that out enough to say that, but that's really cool. I get to I have weight training, and the vending machines are on the other side of the gym. So I basically walk out of the gym, go to the vending machines, get a water bottle, come back in. It's perfect placement, just gotta say. What else? Am I missing anything? Oh, Youth True Survey. That worked really well too. I liked it. I think that's really interesting, and I think the results are gonna do something good. So, yeah. Thank you.
Can I ask Jeffrey a question? On the vending machines, Jeffrey, is it just water or what is it? What's in the vending machine?
So we have 2 vending machines, and you know, great idea to put them right next to each other, and even though they have the same things in both. But they have like water, vitamin water. They have ends like the graham crackers that are shaped like bunnies. We have fruit rolls, just healthy snacks.
It's a healthy snack.
Okay, just checking to make sure it's not, soda pop and candy.
Nope. I mean,
Just checking.
Probably wouldn't have come if. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Trustee Nell?
I've done a couple of things. I participated at the Marin County Office of Education. The County Trustee Association held a trustee leadership meeting. I participated as a panel member on a discussion around the best way for trustees to do their job, sort of a professional development for school board trustees here in Marin. Went by the Sunday afternoon, went by Novato High School and had a short stay and participated with the WASC committee there, which is the Western Accreditation. I forget what the other things stand for, but essentially the organization responsible for giving our schools accreditation. So it was a pleasure to be there and to meet those commissioners. And I also attended the District Advisory Committee meeting all day yesterday, and it was interesting. We worked very hard trying to solve all the problems of public education in the United States of America. I don't know how far we got, but hopefully we're going to be able to apply some of the things that came up, and in small ways we're making progress. But everybody worked hard and participated, and I was with the English language. You were with math, I think you mentioned earlier. So it was a good group. That's
Trustee Aguila?
During the week, I attended a sex trafficking film showing that took place in Terra Linda, and it's called I Am Jane. And it's a film. I'm not sure if it would be on YouTube, but it's a film on sex trafficking and talked about the problems nationwide. But Marin County has a big problem as well, and it's very hush-hush, but after the film, there was a panelist, among them San Rafael Police Department and some of the Seraptimus group, and it was very educational, and I think parents and students should be able to, when they get their hands on this film, they should, I recommend that that we be educated on this more. It's a big problem. And I also attended the NUSD District Advisory Committee for parts of it, and I was wondering if you could explain, like, were you able to see some of the results on your school, and do you think that the results that you saw, do you think they really reflected your experience at the school?
So, yes, I got to see a lot of my school, and the thing about the results is that they reflect the overall perspective. So everybody has very different, like, the experience everybody has is very different depending on, like, who you are and, like, what you do at the school. So for me, it's been generally positive, but I guess overall, it's a different opinion. So yeah.
And we'll get a report to the board on the Youth Truth Survey and access to all that information. So coming forward. Great, thanks. Trustee Mack.
I'll keep it really short. On Sunday, I did attend the reception for the WASC folks. I ended up in the wrong room, I guess, and because I was a parent, I joined into the parent conversation, and that was really useful, helpful, because I got a chance to hear directly from a lot of the parents at Novato High, and really going raving about the culture at Novato High, and so I was really glad to hear that. Otherwise, though, it was good to meet the WASC folks, and looking forward to hearing what they have to say and learning how this process works.
Okay, Trustee Scott.
So last Friday night, I attended the MSA Auction event. It was held down in San Rafael at George's on 4th Street. It was completely sold out. It was a lot of fun. I think they raised a great deal of money, more than maybe last year. Yeah, it was a lot of money. I don't want to say exactly because I don't know the totals, but it was a great event. I enjoyed myself. I thought the kids were fabulous. So were the comedians. On Sunday, I also attended the WASP committee, and I also ended up in that parent group. I'm not sure I was supposed to be there either, but it was good to listen to what the parents had to say. So I'll be talking about that feedback with staff later. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to pass on mine. Do you have any announcements, Superintendent? Okay.
Today I met with students at San Marin for their equity group. So they have an equity group that meets every Wednesday at lunch. And Leslie and I went there, and what we're trying to do is get there some more specifics to them about if there were the kind of equity we'd like to see at the high school campus, what would that look like? So we did an exercise we've done actually with the National Equity Project before, where what would you see, what would you hear, and what would you feel if we had the kind of true equity that we want to have? And it was really an informative exercise. So we're going to do that at Novato High, and also do that at Marin Oaks, and bring that together, because my concern is we have a lot of equity work going on in the district, but if it's not getting to the point where it's impacting what we want to see for students, then we need to reshift our focus. So we're actually having an equity convening at the end of May. And I think somehow we're going to bring the students in to make sure they review kind of what they want to see, so we can check ourselves to make sure that the equity work with Nancy Dome and with Hugh Vasquez and the National Equity Project is actually heading towards making some changes for students. So as usual, it's great to work with the students and the student group. So we're going to be continuing on with that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So we're going to take a moment here and honor Gladys. Would you come up? Wow, I've never really spoken into this. Now I know what it feels like. Gladys Spatz has served as our executive assistant to the superintendent and the board of trustees. And you've been here in this particular position for 6 years? Yeah, 2 superintendents you've worked with. And prior to that, you've been in this district office. How long? I apologize. I should have did my homework, which I normally do. 17 years in Nevada Unified School District. And she's done a myriad of things, but this has been the longest you've been as an executive assistant position? Yeah, for the 7, yeah, about the same. So, but her role is really, majority of the day is taking care of Jim and his calendar and things like that, being his executive assistant. But a big part of it is handling the board and having 7 different people telling her, I need this, I need that, and working with our schedules and setting up the board meetings and getting us signed up for conferences or a workshop or just all the little things, preparing our packet, loading the information onto Agenda Online. It's a huge commitment in that respect in handling the board side of things. And we can't thank you enough for your service to just Nevada Unified in general, but service to the board itself. We really appreciate it. You're very easygoing. You're one of the first faces people see when they walk into this district office, and it's a pleasure to have you there representing this district and taking care of the customer, basically. Even if it's something that might be a little crazy or, an angry parent, and you calm them down and you put them at ease, and we find a solution for them. And you're one of those first faces they see, so we really appreciate it. Thank you. Here's a little gift. You can open up that later, and just a little enjoy a little orchid. And we really, again, really appreciate it. And if any board members would like to say anything, you're more than welcome to. Just go right ahead, jump right in.
Well, Gladys, parting is such sweet sorrow, but I hope you'll be around. We'll see you around. I just wanted to thank you for all your service. I personally want to thank you for helping to translate the public sector school district language into my private sector scheduling and communication. And I always felt like you were very conscientious and understood what with the information I was trying to get and where I should go, and you were very reliable. I felt like I could count on you every time. So I really respect you for that and appreciate the work that you did, and want to honor you for you and your career and in the service that you did here at Nevada Unified. So thank you very much.
Gladys, thank you so much for your hard work and so many years, and you've done a fantastic job, and you've taken care of us, and literally, just made sure that we're at the right place at the right time. And with me, I seem to always be calling you. We're always trying to get our schedules together, and you're a key to this district. And so your name, Gladys, Gladys, and to me, the first part of your name, glad, so is this school district glad to have you represent us? Are we glad for your example of kindness to all? Are we glad for your attention to details? Glad for your emails, calls, texts, reminders? Glad for your friendly smile and classy hats that we get to see? And the answer to that is also in your name, and that's why yes. So
very clever. Really nice.
No, Gladys, we've talked about this before, and you have a heart of gold. You're the one that has the heart of gold, and thank you for your professionalism, your dedication for the 17 years, and you were very you were the right person to have the first, like Debbie said, the first person to have people see. So the community, the parents, the teachers, the staff, the schools, the students, and the board, you just were. I just don't know what. I'm just so thankful, and it's a sad evening for us, but I'm also happy for you. And again, thank you for all your hard work, and you should be very proud that you get to go, and knowing that you did a fantastic job. Thank you.
I don't know how I'm going to top that. I mean, really?
Give a poem.
I mean, but anyway, now Gladys, you've been a rock around here. Anytime we need something, you're there. You're reliable. You are herding cats, namely the 7 of us. Not to rhyme with your last name, but anyway, trying. Anyway, but no, seriously, there's 7 of us, and we're all very different, and we all have very different habits in terms of how we respond, in terms of how we are best found, and you are a master of getting us all there. So I really appreciate that, but also too, you were instrumental in getting me started. Once again, I kind of invoke this a lot. I'm the rookie, but you made it so much easier, gently nudging me, Greg, you need to do this, you need to do that, and I really appreciate that. And it would have been so much more difficult if I was just thrown in cold. So you were my anchor, and I really appreciate that, and still are, yes. But one thing, in a more serious note too, I want to acknowledge your very, very important contributions to our difficult times. When we had the issue at Novato High, you went way above and beyond, and I really want to acknowledge that. That was extremely important. Your skills, your willingness, your heart, it still breaks me up. So thank you.
Oh, Gladys, you are truly such a delight. You are always so positive. You always have a smile on your face. You really are the rock behind this board, and I can't thank you enough for your years of service to this district and to this board and to Jim and our prior superintendents. I'm really going to miss you, and I also want to acknowledge your Spanish-speaking skills, because that is such a gift to have somebody on the front lines that with our community as it's changing, to be able to help those folks. I just can't tell you. It just gives me a lot of peace and satisfaction to know that, you have that ability, and it just means a lot to me. I'm really going to miss you. You were just so positive and smiling. I mean, I don't think you've ever had a bad day here. You're just, I mean, every day I've ever walked in here, you are smiling, happy, upbeat. I know you love your job, and we're really going to miss you. And I wish you all the best in your retirement. Happy travels, happy hiking, and all the best.
Are you sure you want to leave? Okay. No, again, thank you so much. You heard it right here, and I know if Tom and Ross were here, they would say the same thing. Oh, Ross is there.
So do I get to talk?
Yes, absolutely.
So Gladys, I've watched you grow through lots and lots of positions in this district. I'm thrilled that this has been your home for so long, what you've given back to this community and the kids who depend upon this school for their futures is immeasurable. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope you don't make us strangers.
Yeah, can you come in and fill in? Yeah,
I just want to thank all of you. You're a terrific board to work for. You're the envy of a lot of the superintendents, secretaries of Marion County, because you're an exquisite board. You're just, you're really together. Your heart and soul is for the children, our families, our staff, the community. So you really, all of you just really rock. And so I really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody that I've worked with through the years. And I definitely will miss you, but it's been a great experience. And so I really appreciate everything you've done for me. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for making those nice comments. It's great. All right, let's move on to our non-agenda public comment. I do have 3 speakers. And the first one is Lucy London, and then it'll be Kelly Tillman, and then Fran Rosoff. And if you could just come up to the microphone. And each speaker has 3 minutes to speak before the board. Unfortunately, these are non-agenda public comments, so we can't respond back, but we'll hear what you have to say. And then we have a timer over here that will count down, and you can see when your 3 minutes is up. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lucy London. I am 17 years old, and I'm a junior at Novato High School. I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm incredibly thankful for the actions you have already taken to promote sustainability in our community, specifically with the addition of solar panels in many local schools. I am the co-president of Earth Club at my school, and as I've become more aware of my own actions towards protecting the earth, I've begun to see a lot of room for improvement in the education and policies regarding climate change at my school. I'm a member of Schools for Climate Action, and I'm here to encourage you to consider adopting and passing a resolution of climate action similar to the resolutions passed by the Sonoma County Office of Education, the Sonoma Valley Unified School District, and the Sebastopol Union School District. I'd like to bring up the importance of speaking up for national action on climate change, remembering that we are stewards of the earth and that the earth is our home. Climate change is an issue that continues to grow in importance, and we are already seeing the effects of it close to home. If we do not act soon to stop it, the future of the human race and the future of this planet will be greatly endangered. We still have time to stop the changing climate and the scientific innovation necessary to do so, but we are lacking the political will and influence that comes with it. By acknowledging that climate change is a generational justice issue, and by stating your expectation that all elected leaders should take action, my generation and the generations after me will be more equipped to combat the effects of climate change. I strongly encourage you to fight for your children by resolving to take action against climate change, for we are the future of this world. Thank you again for all your work on behalf of our community and for considering a strong climate action solution.
Great, thank you. Thanks. And just to follow up, Lucy did email me that information, which you just spoke to, and all of the links to the resolution examples. So I will. No. Might be a future, yes. So I have the information already, and I will figure out how we can make that work. So.
Hi, my name is Kelly Tillman. I am 17 and also a junior at Novato High School. I am the other co-founder and president of Novato High Earth Club, and I'm extremely grateful to be able to have this local forum to speak on one of my generation's most urgent issues, climate change. Through my 10th grade chemistry class at Novato High School, I was able to develop a deep love for climate studies and activism. I think there's even more that we can do locally in Novato to support environmental educational opportunities in schools. With Schools for Climate Action, I'm asking for with Novato Unified School District support in a resolution for climate action. Climate action is a necessary step to take to prepare my generation for the devastating and pressing effects of climate change on our Earth's oceans, resources, land, and organisms. We can do this one way, for example, through implementing tri-bin waste systems, as suggested by the middle schoolers, and as Novato High Earth Club is planning to do in order to get Novato High School green certified or to hold our school accountable for sustainable action. As leaders of our community working to protect youth like me and Lucy, I think it is completely necessary and will prove beneficial to support climate action in Novato Unified School District. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Our last speaker is Fran Rosoff.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent Hogaboom. My name is Fran Rosoff, as you know. I'm going to be taking off my union hat this evening and putting on my teacher hat. This evening I'm going to be speaking about the necessity of providing emotional health resources for students, especially at the elementary school level. I'm going to preface this by saying 4 years ago, after the school shooting in Connecticut, I emailed this letter that I'm going to read to you this evening to all of you, and I was advocating for literacy programs and funding for student and family counselors. Unfortunately, I didn't receive one response from the then superintendent or a board member, so this evening I'm going to read it to you. As educators, the unthinkable tragedy in Florida should remind us of our responsibility to advocate for emotional resiliency education in our public schools. We must educate families about the need to protect young children from the gratuitous violence in movies, video games, and other media images. We should demand that our elected officials design and enforce much stricter gun safety legislation. Several years ago, after the Columbine tragedy, the University of San Francisco professor, media consultant, emotional health educator, and author of this book, Emotional Honesty and Self-Acceptance, Ron Brill and I collaborated to create the Self-Discipline Project at Olive School. The purpose was to help kids deal with core wounding experiences which we all experience in life. For many years, Mr. Brill created and maintained a free online resource for families and educators, Coping Skills for Kids, which was linked to our Olive School website. Sadly, Mr. Brill's comments, which appeared in the Arizona Star newspaper in 2010, still apply today, and I quote, "The real tragedy after horrifying mass murders of innocent students is the failure of parents, educators, and student emotional health professionals to take the basic steps that could protect all of our children. The protection I'm referring to isn't turning schools into armed fortresses, but arming our kids with the life skills that can help them cope with and get over everyday emotional stress, starting in the preteen years in elementary school. These tragedies begin with the lack of elementary and secondary schools' concern that those emotionally wounded students may progress through our public education system and go on to college. Hurt people hurt people, and so are prime candidates for harming others and themselves. Yet we still lack an emotional health system that identifies youth whose lack of coping skills might be addressed, and not only professionally, but also by inexpensive coping skills educational preventive programs. Few seem curious to connect those dots. So tonight, I'm here to say that this latest tragedy reminds all of us, of our duty to remain advocates for introducing coping skills education as a major step toward primary prevention of youth violence. Once again, I urge all of you to make emotional literacy programs an immediate priority in our NUSD schools. Thank you.
Thank you. appreciate you bringing that back to the board, and I apologize for not receiving a response years ago. So again, circling it back around and highlighting that. Thank you. All right, so let's move on to this sort of fits. This is our safety update. Superintendent Hogaboom will be presenting. I know he's got some additional people in the audience.
I do. Thank you, President Butler, and very timely from you, Fran. I appreciate that. So this is a safety update, but I want to leave some time for the board to ask questions. I think we have an excellent emergency response team on a number of fronts. And you guys, I think, have seen a lot of that, but I'm going to bring some people up to maybe answer any questions that you have. So really, we want to give you an update of what we have in place, and also with the recent shootings in Florida, it's a good time to review our own safety plans and procedures. And, you know, we talk a lot about student voice, and I couldn't be more proud of the students and families in Florida, because we've had nothing happening nationally for years and years and years, and it took the efforts of students, I think, in Florida to get things going. So Jeff and Assad, we love having you guys here, and we love hearing student voice, and you guys are the ones that are the future that can get things done, and makes me proud to be an educator with all the efforts that students are doing to make people face up to the situation and actually take some action. And I think we all realize there's not a single answer to the problem. It's not just about guns. It is, as Fran was just talking about, there's a lot of social, emotional issues and healthcare issues and things like that. So it's a multifaceted problem, and I think that we are poised in a good place to help address it. So last year, Leslie and I went to every PTA meeting and talked about this issue of school safety and security, social emotional support, and school culture and climate, and kind of explained to our parents what we had in place. And so I'm not going to go through all these again. So the first issue is physical safety and security. Again, with the situation in Florida, there's a lot of questions, concerns about our lockdown procedures and shelter in place. I'm going to have Stephanie come up in a minute. So Stephanie Parnell has done an awesome job of being one of the members of our emergency preparedness team, and she helps do those trainings, and I want to let you know what that happens. I don't think there's any other school in the county that's doing anything like that, and we really do have a great team. So Bill Welch with North Bay Security, obviously, Leslie heads it up. Adam McGill's here. He's going to talk in a minute from Novato PD, but we have a fantastic team that deals with a whole bunch of things, from disaster preparedness to, you know, we have these weekly calls and things like that. So I'm going to have Stephanie come up in a minute and talk about that. We are still working on the updated surveillance cameras as part of Measure G, the trainings, the gang awareness, site supervision, and all that. That's part of physical safety. Fran was just talking about the second part, which is social and emotional safety and social emotional support. We do contract with a lot of our community resources for counseling services, in addition to our own high school counselors, which, as you know, are primarily academic counselors. But with BACR, the North Bay Community Services, and other partners, the counseling support services are crucial. In the LCAP, those are in there. I think there's 350,000 approximately. I think when we were having those conversations the other day, we all know that we're going to probably need to increase that. I think we have waiting lists at our schools, and we need to make sure that all of our students who need social emotional support get those, again, to Fran's point. In elementary school, one of the tenets of the P3 grant is to develop a culture of caring, and a lot of our elementary schools use the second step curriculum for social and emotional support. A lot of other schools are also realizing the importance of mindfulness and do mind up training and things like that, primarily San Ramon and Pleasant Valley. So we do have a lot of those going, but there's a lot more we need to do. I would say our 6 C's also help our students to make sure that they, with conscientious learner, that they're able to advocate for themselves, take care of themselves. So a lot going on in the realm of social emotional support. And then finally, that third piece is school culture and climate. Our community liaisons help with a lot of that. We've talked a lot about restorative justice, and not just suspending kids, but working with kids on practices like restorative justice, bully prevention programs, conflict resolution programs, character education programs, our leadership programs, Youth Leadership Institute. Anna's there as usual, who's doing great work with our students to be advocates for change. Student advocacy councils at our secondary schools. So a lot going on a lot of those fronts. And again, stopping school violence is a multifaceted problem that really takes a multifaceted approach. And that's what I think we're taking here in Novato. And again, due to the efforts of our emergency prep team, I think that we are really well poised to be able to do what we can to prevent something like that, dealing with the social and emotional part of it, and then secondly, responding to it if something like that should ever happen. So with that, I would like to ask Stephanie, and appreciate Stephanie's coming up to tell you guys a little bit about the active shooter training that we are doing in Novato. Thanks, Steph.
And at your table, we do have a little presentation that she's going to be pulling up here shortly, but you have a hard copy sitting at your spot.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Parnell. I'm the assistant principal at Hamilton School. I'm also the active shooter trainer for the district. I've been asked to kind of give you a summary of what that training looks like at each of the schools. To give you a little bit of history, about 4 years ago, myself and several other members from NUSD, including Bill and Leslie, we attended a training at MCOE called School Violence and the Active Shooter. And we thought it was obviously very important that we had to put something together to bring back to NUSD to make our staff and students more aware of this thing that is happening in our schools. So I created this with the help of the other members. I created this this PowerPoint, and a couple years ago we did our first round of trainings for all of the schools. It was custodial, that was classified, that was yard supervisors, in all 13 schools. And then now we're doing it again, doing a refresher course. I've so far done, I think, about 4 schools this school year, and have a lot more to go. So real briefly. So we start off with recognizing who this active shooter is, this intruder, this person. All the statistical data comes straight from law enforcement. And so we kind of get a clearer picture of what kind of person we're dealing with. And of course, we delve more deeply into these topics during the training. We also look at the incident itself and come to the realization that how long these incidents happen, how frequently they happen, the response time of PD, and that it really comes to light that our staff is the first responders in these situations, and having to, you know, kind of take that and absorb that and realize what our role is and what we have to do. The first stage in the training is how to become more aware. We call it pre-incident behaviors. So those things, you know, we work with kids, you know, all the time. And so we have like firsthand knowledge of being able to, you know, see how they're doing socially and emotionally and even academically that could indicate some concerns that need to be brought forward. So making ourselves more aware of these behaviors that we need to pay more closer attention to. We talk a lot about like being more vigilant, more observant of who's on our campus, trusting our gut, not letting things slide as easily as we used to, be more communicative with each other, teachers to admin, admin to district, and, you know, just kind of everybody working together as a team to be more aware. The second phase of the training is our preparation, so drills. As a emergency prep team, we recommend that each school have 3 lockdown drills, preferably 1 where there's students outside, so practice that. Also and Hamilton does this, where we do one where Bill Welch just comes on our campus and puts us in a lockdown so nobody has any idea of when it's happening, and I think that's the best training because it's the most authentic. Also how to become more prepared as an individual, you know, recognizing those things in yourself. Am I going to be able to stand up and fight? What's my priority of life? Am I going to be able to put myself between my students and an active shooter? So we talk a lot about that mental preparation and what you would and wouldn't be willing to do or able to do. We also talk about the classroom and how to make our classrooms, we call them defensive classrooms, so preparing our classrooms themselves. Now I have teachers that leave their classroom doors locked at all times, just so that's one less thing they have to do if something happens. Leaving their blinds closed instead of so they don't have to deal with fiddling with their blinds in case something happens. So really thinking of the whole school site and your classroom and yourself of how best prepared we can be and how defensive we can be. And then the last phase is if an incident happens. And there are 3 responses that we can have. You can either hide, you can run, or you can fight. And we talk a lot about like what that looks like and how if you don't think about it now, you're not going to be prepared for it when it does happen. And so really having to put yourself through your paces and imagine if something happened right now in this moment as I'm walking from my classroom to the library, what would I do? Where would I go? How would I run? Would I fight? You know, if I could I hide? So we go through all of that kind of mental training. This is the running, understanding the mindset of law enforcement, you know, knowing where you'll go, know your campus. And I think the hardest one to come to grips with is whether or not you'll be able to fight, because most of us as educators don't go into this business thinking that we're ever going to have to fight, but kind of giving people that power and knowledge of that you can do something. And I think the greatest aha that they walk away with after the training is that these people are cowards. And the gun is what makes them feel powerful. And if they're not expecting someone to stand up to them and kind of take charge. And so we kind of like try to give that power back and recognize things that they can fight back with. And, you know, the fire extinguisher is the most important one. And that, you know, these people are cowards. I said it once. So, and to kind of, you know, give people back their power. So that was like really quick. And we also talk about going outside and what that looks like outside. And then we talk about what next steps are. And Leslie and myself and Bill and Mark Silva, we're working on putting together what we call a threat assessment team. So there's something at the district where administrators can report to the district. There's like a bank of knowledge that we can pull together, and we can find resources if there is concerning things and things to investigate and communicate with law enforcement on what we can do to make ourselves the most protected. They say there's a quote, I can't remember the quote or who said it, but they said that the best defense is being prepared, even more so than locking your campus and having, you know, the gates around your campus and locking it. It's more important that you have a prepared staff and a knowledgeable staff. That is what is going to save our kids, and that's what are going to save ourselves if we're in this type of situation. And I'll just leave you with this. My next training is at Loma Verde next Wednesday on March 14th. It's at 2:30 in the afternoon, but I invite any of you to come. I think there'll be a representative from Novato PD there too. So come on and you can delve into this with us further.
Questions? Yes. Trustee Scott and then Trustee Miller.
So question as far as next steps on the lockdown drills, are we doing anything with those magnet things over the door locks?
So we haven't had to, ever since, unfortunately, the Florida incident, we haven't been able to meet, but we've definitely been talking through email about what our next steps regarding that. I can only speak for Hamilton at this point that, yes, we are looking into investing in those. Even if we don't purchase them, but make them, because they're super easy to make for the magnetic strips that go over the doors. So yes.
Yeah, Jim, you want to?
So thanks for the question. So I know that Novato High School is looking into it, and I think their PTA wanted to go ahead and get it. So we do want to take that back to the emergency preparedness team. If it's great for Novato High, it's great for all the other schools too. I know we use them in my last district because that way you can keep the door locked, and it's just a quick, easy, simple thing, but it still keeps the door open unless you take it away. So we'll be looking into it, and if the team feels that that's something that's going to be really helpful, then we will buy them as a district for all the schools, so that it's not just like, well, we're buying it, but we don't want to. So we'll take care of looking into that through the team.
Can you make sure when that happens that you notify the entire board on that? Thank you.
Trustee Miller?
Thank you. Clearly, the takeaway is you got 5 minutes or 12 minutes. The first action is in 12 minutes, and the police department doesn't show up for 5 minutes. The first responder is our staff. And that it's not, if you have, your defense is not that you have more weapons than the attacker. The defense is that you're emotionally prepared and ready to act in an appropriate and quick way. And that you spent the time looking for behaviors that would indicate something might happen. So you got your eyes open and paying attention. Has this training been shared with the rest of Marin County? Are the other law enforcement and school districts have the same kind of focus we do? If not, can we take this recording and this PowerPoint and send it to every superintendent in the county?
Hi, yes. Well, the County of Marin Schools has 4 times a year has a Marin School Public School Safety meeting. And so it's with Mike Grant, thank you, not law enforcement, a different one. And so I sent this presentation to Mike Grant last year.
Okay.
So I think he has shared it with the other districts as well. Where they are with that, I don't really know, but we did share it to them at the county level to be disseminated out.
Okay, so the next time I have lunch with my daughter, I'll ask her, and I don't think that she's been exposed to this kind of pre-training. So I'm anxious to see us take what our good experience is here, and clearly this is sound. I've sat through SWAT trainings on our campuses where police come in, and that's an important response, but it doesn't respond, as you point out, to the 95% of the incidents where you need a teacher or an adult on the campus to maybe just confront the individual, or a month before have figured out there's an issue and get some assistance to identify the person. Then that kind of work makes me concerned. So I'm thrilled with this work. It seems to me it's let's act smartly, not responsively. Let's look at the real problem, and if we can share this across the county, I'd be thrilled. Our kids, need us to be thinking at our very highest levels. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Stephanie, for realizing a couple of years ago how important this was before it even, now we're in situations where it's at the forefront and you're circling back around, but to realize that several years ago and how important it was, thank you very much. So you could quit your job and go throughout the county and do the training.
Not there yet.
No, I know you're not, but thank you. We really, truly appreciate the effort.
So the superintendents meet once a month, I think on the first Wednesday of the month, so we're meeting tomorrow, so we'll be talking more extensively about this. Ross, I'll bring your concerns up, and on that note, before I ask Police Chief Adam McGill to come up, we are getting prepared for the activities next week. So as you probably have heard, there's some marches planned. The first one I think is March 14th at 10 o'clock, where for 17 minutes to honor the 17 students who died in Florida, there's kind of a planned walkout. So we're having a meeting actually on Thursday to talk about that and talk with our students about what they're planning on doing, trying to encourage them to do things that are constructive. If they do go off campus, we'll work closely with the police like we did last time when they walked off, to make sure that our students are safe, make sure the staff knows their role. Primarily, I think a lot of teachers are going to wear orange. That's the color to show support of reducing gun violence. So we will come back to you with kind of what the plans are going to be. And that's just the first one on the 14th. I think it's another one later in March, another one in April. So we'll work with our administrators and our teachers and our students to make sure that we make sure our kids are safe while they're doing that. And yes, they have a right to their freedom of speech. And yes, there's some consequences to that as well. So we'll be doing that. So I just we work pretty closely with Adam McGill, and I think he's been a great addition to Novato. And so I just wanted him to come up and give his perspective on kind of the law enforcement perspective on things. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. Primarily want to be available to answer any questions that you may have, but I'll just offer to those that I'm sure the thousands watching at home, much like our city council meetings, right? I'll assure everyone that we do have similar plans in place. All of our personnel are certified and routinely trained on all of these practices and responses. We share the disappointment that many of us across the country and what happened in the response, particularly from law enforcement, and the failures that occurred in Florida. And I can just offer you, I can't correct what happened in Florida or anywhere else, but I can offer you my assurances that all calls involving any threats to any of your campuses rise to my level. I'm very engaged, and we won't allow those type of mistakes to happen here. All of our personnel recently recommitted themselves to what their expectations are, and that is to act. And that is to act immediately, which is the best practice. I will just, and not just a complete condemning what happened in Florida. I would just like to remind that in the countless other situations, almost universally, It is the police that are running towards the gunfire as others are running away. So what happened in Florida was an anomaly. It has not been the training or practice since 1999 in Columbine. So we across the country in our profession are disappointed as well. So I'll stop there, and I don't want to take all of your time. You have a full agenda, but if there are any burning questions on particularly the Novato response or our partnership, please let me know.
Let's go to Jeffrey.
All right, so I know this is a concern of a lot of the students that I've heard from, but I don't know, I was gonna bring this up earlier, but I just didn't know if I should have. But what happens when it's a student that already knows all the drills, that already knows the plan, that knows everything that's gonna happen step by step because we've gone through it so many times?
Yeah. So the plans are more for us, right? And yes, the person that's going to do the violence, whether that's a student or someone else that just walks onto your campus, they have a plan of what they're going to do. It's what you're responding. We also know what they're doing, right? They're coming on campus to shoot as many people as possibly, most often randomly. So we know everything you saw on the PowerPoint is proven best practices and can help mitigate. It's certainly not going to prevent people from being injured and even potentially killed, but it will definitely lower the numbers because we know through the pattern, every single one of these are debriefed across the country, at a level beyond of what your television might tell you about. So we know a pattern of behaviors and what they always do, and of course we build the protections that you see in the PowerPoint to defeat those. And then something new happens, and we have to think of the magnets or some other things, ways to stop doors. So it's an ongoing. It's no different than certainly much more severe, but it's no different than burglars and thieves and other criminals. It's always a game of cat and mouse. But it's not going to change our response, knowing that they know what we're going to do. We're coming to get them and to stop them as quickly as possible.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Trustee Millerick.
Thank you. I was glad to hear you cite the change in practice that occurred in 1999, which went from organize and attack to interrupt and immediately alter the circumstances. And I thought that was a critical transformation in law enforcement at the time, and I'm glad to see it's still being cited as an important change. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, Trustee Nell.
I thought I might ask you to comment a little bit on the conflict of dealing with people with mental health issues or who are considering an attack like this that comes to your knowledge. You're informed about it through counselor, a neighbor, a grandparent, whatever means, and how you have to battle in a country of freedom and privacy, the individual rights and their ability. You just can't take them away on a hunch. So just wanted to know here in Novato what your approach is and what you might like to see changed.
It's a good question. We are fortunate in California in that we're one of 7 states in the country that we do have the ability. Let me rewind a little bit. Much of the national debate that you're seeing and people are asking Congress to do, California already has in place most of those laws. Of course, there's no national registry, things like that, so we're not a participant in that. But a lot of the restrictions on assault weapons, magazine capacity, and one of the biggest ones is directly to your question. We're one of 7 states in the country. We have the ability to, prior to a commitment that someone's committed to a mental health hospital, if we have probable cause to believe, we can get the court to order firearms removed while this person's still walking around and free. Although I think Florida just voted on that today, I don't know if it cleared their Senate or not, but so they would add to it. So that's one tool that we have that a lot of other jurisdictions do not. So we receive credible information that someone is a threat to themselves or others. We would respond, look into that through every tool we have available to us, whether that's online, traffic, direct testimony from witnesses, family members, the person themselves, written documents, whatever it may be. We would make an assessment, sometimes in consultation with mental health professionals available to us 24 hours, sometimes the officer at the scene. You talked about a threat team putting together. We do something similar to do a threat assessment on the person if it's a threat to harm a school or a hospital or some other major employer or big business. And then we would make a decision to take them in protective custody. Perhaps it maybe doesn't reach that bar where we can do that. So we do have that other ability that we could do an emergency court order 24 hours a day, seek a judge's permission to forcibly remove their firearms if we didn't believe we could hospitalize them at that time. So it doesn't prevent that they have a firearm we don't know about or they gain access to one somewhere else, but it is a much better tool than most have. Certainly not foolproof, but better.
Okay. I have two questions.
Yes, ma'am.
With the Florida tragedy, the conversation of teachers being armed has come to the surface. What are your thoughts?
I do not support that at all. The answer I've loved, I think, I can't read your last name from here, Ross. I can read
Miller.
Ross,
Yeah,
but
Miller.
You're not missing anything. It's okay. I would just, I loved his statement that I think the answer is much of what we heard from everyone else. It's preparedness, resiliency to deal with it, adding weapons to the campus that then are in briefcases on teachers' waistbands, in their drawers. Students overpower them. They're not routinely trained to carry these, I think is adding to the problem, not helping. It is quite a burden to carry a firearm and to do so and be responsible for what may happen as a result of your actions with that firearm. And I don't know that the teachers have the time to invest in that commitment.
Right. Okay. Appreciate your thoughts on that. Sure. The next question is, I think, more for the district or even for yourself. A lot of times another student, these incidents at schools are from students who attended that school previously and have come back. Some students don't want to report something they've seen on social media, or they saw, or they read. Is there a way to anonymously report something that they see, either to the police department or to the school district in some way?
So my previous city, the school district subscribed to a vendor known as WeTip. So I don't know if your district has something like that. I can tell you that we have the ability to anonymous tip. You can do that through text, email, any mechanism whatsoever, through our website, certainly through any of our social media platforms. Through they would, of course, to be anonymous, have to be a fake online name themselves. But we do have the ability to leave voice online tips as well. So we would also encourage that to do that. That was a failure in Florida as well, unfortunately. But to own that kind of information yourself is a burden that is not something you want to weigh on your shoulders if something happens. So trust us, we're from the government, but please give us another shot. Despite what happened in Florida, we have far more tools and resources available that we can validate or vet these threats and get into some intelligence and things that you may not have. You may have the one piece of a puzzle of 3 other people have called, and it's not enough to take that action yet, that probable cause, but you're that one little piece that sounds minor to you, but when we put that in, now we have a picture of what we're dealing with and we can take action. So please give us another shot and definitely report any suspicions.
Thank you. Yeah. I would like to add that I do know that they have that anonymous tip line, and I'm figuring out a way how to put those on our websites, so that so it goes directly to them, and we're not the middle people, as you said, trying to decide what to do. I think it's better if there's a tip that it goes directly to the police department. So I want to really integrate that into our websites.
So right now, our students they're not aware of reporting anything.
We don't have a mechanism at this point.
But we're working towards that.
Yes. Yeah, we have been looking into some apps to do that.
I think that would be really, I think a lot of times they just don't want to say that they see, yeah. Jeffrey, did you have a comment?
Yeah,
and then
this is another question for you, but so I know that there's something called I can't remember if it's like a kit gun or like a ghost gun, where you basically order it online, you assemble it yourself, and then you basically have a firearm. What does California have against that? I can't remember anything was there or not. I just remember hearing about it.
Yeah, that's unlawful in California.
Okay, thank you.
The California resident to order assault weapon pieces from another state, Nevada's common. So that's why we need the federal legislation to close those. We can have the strongest firearms laws in the country, which we do, but there are 49 other states that all you got to do is drive across the state line and you're in, and you bring in everything with it. We ask you at where I used to work in Truckee, Tahoe, we ask you if you have any oranges or vegetables in your car, but that's all we ask for.
Trustee Aguila.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie. Thank you. When we are ready to put the tip line on the website, could we also add it to the handbooks of our schools, and in Spanish and English? So with maybe like a brief explanation, what and how is it used, so that students also don't abuse it, and so it'd be in the handbook so that for everybody to be able to see. And maybe your Facebook, if we have NUSD Facebook and whatever. There you go. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Anything? Does Bill Welch? Would you have anything to add? I mean, you don't have to. I'm just want to make sure this is an important subject. So
it is, and we take it very seriously.
Yeah.
What I really want to stress is that we meet more than 4 times a year. So every time something comes up, we're developing a new plan or procedures, and there's a lot of knee-jerk reactions when something horrible happens in another state, and they want to change all these things. And just behind the scenes, there's so much work about getting the safety manual and protocols and procedures and the training that we're doing, and it's continually updated. And because I, am around the county, just Marin and Sonoma, going to different schools and talking to people, Novato, and I've said this before at different meetings, Novato is so far ahead of the curve with safety, and you should be really proud of the implementation that you have done and the plans that you have. And as soon as the Florida incident happened, we were on the phone talking, and now we're revising the thing that you saw Stephanie do.
Right.
So just know that we are on top of it, and creating this threat assessment team is very valuable. It needs to start at elementary school, because if you can catch these kids early, something like that will not happen. And I'm a huge proponent for that. So thank you for your work.
Thanks. Thank you. So that safety update has come to the board a few times from previous years, but this is a much different conversation than previous years. So just continue to keep us informed. I appreciate that. Yes, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think it's really important that you just make this simply known to the students, just having it so that everybody knows how far ahead of the curve we are. Because before this, I didn't know a quarter of what, I probably knew just a quarter of everything that would just happen right now. And I think it's really important that everybody knows how, I guess, safe we are, just compared to most counties. And I just feel like that's just something that's worth noting to the students, because at the schools, we're like, wait, do we have this? Do we have that? Do we have any of this? And I think that's just something that should be known.
How would you suggest that we get that in the hands of the students? Is it an email from the principal? I mean, what an assembly?
An assembly
with Chief McGill. I'm sure he would be.
An assembly would be like, I guess, over the top, but as simple as just having just information around campus, having it like go through the announcements like every day for a week.
Okay.
Just making sure that everybody just kind of like knows of it or about it.
Okay.
Just have, or like an assembly would be great if we had just.
It's hard at a high school.
I know, that's hard.
I understand.
But
yeah.
If we had an assembly just so everybody knew about it, or just have someone walk around the classrooms, just 5 minutes spiel, just giving it like, hey, look, this is what we have, this is this, any questions? And then just done. Just have a 10-minute thing, have it quick, keep it sweet. Students will actually feel comfortable, and then that just makes everybody in a better place.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, the other thing we were just talking about today is there's a video we just got, which is like a 4-minute video, which basically says, prepare, whatever it is, I should know how to prepare, hide, run, your different, or fight, whatever those are. So, and it's more of a secondary focus. So, just showing that short little video and doing some other things, I think there's a lot more we can do to get people prepared. So thanks for that suggestion.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Thank you.
So I'm going to leave that in your hands. Take that with the principals. Okay, that was, and I appreciate the staff bringing that forward as an update. The Local Control Accountability Plan, progress update and review of short version. This has been occurring since the LCAP has come on board. We get the short version update every year. Yeah, and then the long version at the end of the school year.
Okay, so I'm pulling up a version of the short version, I should say, for the LCAP. I'm going to keep my comments really short because we've seen this so many times. We did have a DAC meeting yesterday, the District Advisory Committee meeting, and I appreciate everyone that was able to attend and give some input on the short version. Some of what we did during that meeting was kind of track this idea of, are these strategies really getting to the root cause of our achievement gap? And one of the things that I think was a big aha for the group was they're getting at the symptoms of probably the achievement gap, that we're trying to kind of come at it from the other end of our students who are already struggling. Here are some interventions that we're doing after the fact. But we did pretty much trend all of them towards these are strategies that are good ways of addressing that achievement gap. Maybe not the root cause, but at least the symptoms that we are seeing kind of come out in the classrooms right now. The one other thing that we heard from the District Advisory Committee was the strategy around paying for the PSAT for all students. There was a feeling that because we don't have a whole lot of follow-up and description of what that is for students, the impact is not as great as it could be. So there was some question about whether or not we do that or not. Yeah. So I'm going to try to scroll down on this well. So the other one that has come up through our kind of input sessions is the questions around mental health counselors and increasing that. We do know there's currently some potential wait lists at the schools, and we don't want to see that happening, so we were talking about increasing it in that category. The other one that I do want to mention is trending along with the recommendations from the Budget Advisory Committee. We know that we'll see a decrease in our instructional coaches by 2. So it's going from 6 to 2 in the supplemental funding. And then the other change would be a decrease in 3 contracts. That's for the Buck Institute for Education contract, the Clark Consulting and Training contract, and then the third one is National Equity Project. So those 3 are going to be decreased by a total of about $100,000. And in order to kind of bring in another strategy, we didn't talk about this at the District Advisory Committee, but it has been a strategy in there before, is the class size reduction for 4th and 5th grade. And that kind of will make up the difference. We don't have the new numbers. The other thing, we don't have the new numbers on how much the LCAP supplemental funds we have to kind of match to. We don't have those new numbers yet. Other than that, those are the major ones that we're taking a look at. I am here tonight to get your input if there are other areas that you want me to pull more data on or information as we go through this process. Through the month of March and April is, as I presented earlier, we have a timeline on reaching out to different stakeholder groups. So we'll go to DLAC, we're going to go to the PTAA, we're going to have a community meeting in April. Next week we do have a presentation to the City Council. That's kind of a new outreach. So all of those places are places where we're going to ask for some more input on in particular the supplemental, which is our short version. The long version kind of tracks along with that as well. So I'm going to open it up for questions.
Trustee Millerick.
So when you present to the City Council, make sure you take a couple of board members with you as part of the organizational presentation. We want to make sure they're working board to board in cases where that's the appropriate strategy. In terms of this issue, though, last week we adopted a budget that basically took the Nexus program and removed it from NUSD and delivered it down to the County Office of Education, and there are students who will be served differently for that. So as we look at these contracts, I want to make sure we work very hard to constrain our costs as we go forward. So I'd like you to relook at every one of these to make sure we're getting every penny of value from every penny we spend, because I know, at least in the case of Nexus, we didn't have the money to support those students directly. So let's take a sharp pencil and go through this again to make sure we don't have to cut programs further that directly impact students. Thank you.
Great. So taking a look at the specific contracts in the LCAP, we'll bring that back. I believe in April, we're going to bring some of those contracts for your review.
Yeah, no, there's maybe opportunities to save some pennies here.
Anybody else? Any additional comments? Yep.
I'll just briefly say, as I attended the district advisory committee that met, this is one of the items we discussed at every meeting, basically. So it's we reviewed it. It's been vetted. We've had a lot of community input and support, and one thing everyone agrees on is there's just a lot more that we wish we could do. But I think that Julie touched on the things that we thought we could do and what we would look at, and by all means, I'm sure we'll be looking at it from a financial perspective as well. So I think the report is what it is. It's we've worked hard on it, and we're going to keep presenting it and getting more ideas. So I want to thank you for your work with the committee. You do a good job leading us. So thank you.
Thank you.
And just a brief comment. I just we have a finite opportunity with students, a very short period of time, to give them the right education and have them, graduate and everything. But then we also don't want to give up on some of these strategies and say, oh, they're not working after 1 or 2 years. It takes time for these things to work and embed into our culture, into our systems. So I don't want to, before we start eliminating things or looking at crossing something off, how much time have we actually put into that program to really see results that are meaningful? So just my thoughts.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see you at City Council.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. All right, so we've had a task force that has been working on the high school bell schedule, and Yvonne is here to give us, the board, an update. You have a PowerPoint, a hard copy that he's pulling up on your table.
Okay, good evening. Thank you, President Butler and Board of Trustees. This evening, I'm here to give you an update on our high school bell schedule task force and the work that we've been doing around looking at our bell schedule differently. The whole purpose is around engaging our students, enhancing student learning by empowering them every day at school so that they can focus on the graduate profile that we have set as our North Star. In the presentation that you have here, you'll focus that it's on our two comprehensive high schools, San Marin High and Novato High School. Our driving question is, how can a modification of the current bell schedule enhance student learning and support the graduate profile? So this is the driving question that the task force came to agreement as we move forward in this task. The bell schedule is composed of a diverse group of stakeholders from all sites, including the district office. We have 2 students, 1 from each high school. We have 6 teachers, 3 from each high school. Our athletic directors, 1 from each high school. 4 site administrators, 2 from each high school, and 3 district office administrators. So this task force has been meeting monthly. The process here is, I'm not going to go through all the dates, but essentially we've met more than once. So here are the dates that we have met with tasks. Tomorrow we have a meeting. You're more than welcome to attend. That's in room 3602 at Novato High School from 4 to 5. That will be, sorry, not tomorrow, Thursday, the 8th. I keep on thinking today's Wednesday. I've done that several times. Actually, tomorrow, you're invited to get on the van with us. We're meeting at San Marin High School at 1:15, and we're going to go over to Drake High School for the second time to visit their tutorial and their block schedule. We went on February 7th with the Novato High School teachers and administrators. Tomorrow, we will be going with the San Marin High School teachers and administrators to visit Drake High School and to see their tutorial. This afternoon, I was happy to meet with NFT President Aaron Fix, along with Michelle Sanner and Matt Baldwin, to go over this process and mainly to seek feedback from Aaron, who represents our teachers, and to have a dialogue. I felt it was very productive. We were able to have a conversation, to talk about next steps, about what this would look like. So there's some dates. The interests of the group. We went through this process of interest-based problem solving. What are our interests? What are our options? As we seek to answer that driving question. You'll see some of the interests there. It's mainly to support and mentor students around the graduate profile and their tenure plan. Many of our students have created these tenure plans this year in our college and career readiness course, also known as Get Focused, Stay Focused. But the course name is College and Career Readiness. Our North Star is a graduate profile, and we want to do whatever it takes to support those 6 C's, those skills that we want. And by having this schedule, it allows us to do this. Our interest is continue with the common planning prep time within the school day, the contract. Dismiss school as close as possible to 3 p.m. for time for extracurricular activities. A tutorial within the school days. Research shows that the importance of teachers making personal connections is a game changer for them. We want the blocks to continue with not fewer than 90 minutes. Increase block days to foster project-based learning for deeper learning, and then consistent lunchtime for our students and staff. Tutorial, this is the one where we mainly focused our conversation this afternoon with Aaron. Tutorial, the purpose around is creating time and access for all of our students to work independently with teacher support and the opportunity to collaborate with their other peers. So students that perhaps have a certain teacher for 3rd period for biology can now collaborate with students that have the same teacher that are maybe in 6th period or 7th period, and now they can work together. And also moving forward, as we look at the different capstones that we have at the high schools, will be a place for them to also collaborate with their peers. The purpose of tutorial, we want to be very clear on what tutorial is and leave no doubts, because this is probably the piece that we need to start with and message to our teachers. What does tutorial look like? This is a draft. As we present to our teachers, the I wonders, they're going to come up with more definitions and what they think. So purpose is student learning. That's the overarching purpose, meeting individual needs of students in an equitable way. We want it to be personalized. This goes with our new mission that we've adopted, that you have adopted, to be individualized, learning opportunity to support all students. Tutorial will look like teachers simply supporting students and building relationships. Productivity will be encouraged, facilitated study hall or teacher working with students. And by the way, the students they're working with are the students that they already have throughout the day in one of their 5 periods. So it's not new contacts. It's not additional prep. It's simply supporting students with the work that they have in school every day with the students they serve every day. That is supported by administration, both the structure and program, and presence. And when we talk about presence, when we went to Drake High School, it's very clear that the administration and the campus supervisors are out and about sweeping or supervising, getting the kids into tutorial. They also are building those relationships with the students, and they're saying, hey, Johnny, what class are you going to? And they're also building connections out in the hallways. What tutorial is not? It's not new instruction, no new students unless the teacher has offered to work other students. It's not a hangout session. So this is, and a lot of this, what we're taking is from other tutorials that have shown to be effective. So we are looking at best practices with other high schools that already have successful tutorials, like Drake High School, for example. This is a picture of us that went over. We got on the bus. Somehow I'm always driving, and that's okay. So we have we have a student there. We have 2 teachers, an administrator, and then Jen Larson. So one question that you probably have is, what's the proposed schedule? What do we currently have? And what are we proposing? That's towards the end of your slide. So what you see there is school. Guess what time school starts every day? 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock every day. But right now, school is getting off on Monday, Thursdays, and Fridays at 3:19 p.m. On Tuesdays, 7th period ends at 3:30 p.m. Wednesdays during block at 1:40, and then they have the staff meeting there. So that comes out to instructional minutes. The state requires 64,800. We're 240 above the state requirement. The proposed schedule that meets all those interests that you just saw, all those interests, is here. So 7th period ends at 3:05, close to 3 o'clock on Mondays. Tuesdays and Thursdays, school ends at 2:30, and that's the tutorial period, which is 60 minutes every Tuesday and Thursday. Staff meeting time is 45 minutes. This afternoon, we actually spoke about a different scenario where if the staff would agree to having perhaps a 90-minute, so let's say Tuesday they wanted to do 90 minutes and go from 2:45 to 4:15, that would be okay. It's still meeting the 90 minutes. Or if they want to choose to do Tuesday and Thursday, 45 minutes. So it allows for some flexibility and planning. Of course, that planning would have to be done at the beginning of the year and plan it out throughout the year for professional learning. Wednesdays and Fridays, where 7th period ends at 3 p.m. So it meets most, if not all, the interests that the group came up with. And we gained instructional minutes. We gained 40 minutes of instructional minutes, and we're done earlier. So less hours at school, but more minutes of instruction. So we were able to accomplish that, and this is a proposed BAL schedule. Moving forward, the next steps, we want to share this proposed BAL schedule with the both high school staffs, get their feedback. We normally use the protocol that what do you like, what do you wonder, what do you want to know more about? We need to run this by the business office through Yancey's department and have them audit for instructional minutes so that we're meeting the compliance with both the county and the state. One of the board policies that you recently approved, I believe at the last board meeting, was around when we make changes to the BAL schedule, and it's a public hearing. So we would need to have a public hearing, allow the public to have input on this. We would like for your approval in supporting the proposed BAL schedule once the group has come up with a strong draft to show. That will be done on Thursday when we meet. And then, and one of the conversations we had today with Aaron was around NFT and what would that process look in facilitating the vote, because we are going to a different schedule with the block scheduling, which goes against the collective bargaining agreement, would need to go towards a vote with our teachers with both high schools. And this MOU needs to get a 67% yes vote to 2/3. If a teacher does not vote, it's considered a no vote. So it's very important that all of our teachers vote in this process. We would work with Aaron and NFT on coming up with the language for the ballot. So it's exciting work. We've been using all the C's in this task force. I want to thank Jim. He's been present for every meeting, pushing us along. The group is very excited. The kids that are participating have been giving a lot of input. So they're using their student voice and advocacy as well. So at this time, I'd like to take questions and comments. Assad, oh, sorry.
Jeffrey, or Assad, excuse me, and then Jeffrey, and then Trustee Mack.
So a couple of things. One is with the proposed draft for the BAL schedule, I'd like to know how we're getting more instructional time than the last schedule, even though we're cutting down on school time overall. So can you explain that, please?
Yes, of course. So what we're doing is the The way we're doing it is we're looking at, so the block schedules, there's more block schedules at 90 minutes. So right now, what you have is more, we call so if you look at the single periods on Monday, Thursday, Friday, those are shorter periods. We're making the periods longer, but we're also making, there's less passing periods. So because you have block schedules, you're only taking 3 classes as opposed, so you're gonna move less. You're moving less throughout the day. So instead of having a class for 50 minutes and then passing period for 5 minutes, so you're moving less, so that gives you more time in a class. The other thing that we're doing is the law allows us for us to add 10-minute passing periods. 10 minutes you can count as instructional minutes. So we're having several 10-minute, so we're going from 5 minutes to 10 minutes passing periods through the blocks on those block days. So those we're counting as instructional minutes as well. So that's a great question.
My second thing is during my meeting with the Marin Transit Association, I have learned that my school currently, Novato High, has very little communication with them when it comes to bus scheduling with the bell schedule. They actually base their bus schedule off of San Marin due to having more communication with them than us. So I was wondering if it would be possible to meet with Marin Transit and discuss the proposed draft for the bell schedule with them.
Yes, that's a great idea. And one thing last year I saw was the Marin Transit was part of our later start committee. It was Callie. Callie was part of every meeting last year when we were working on the later start, moving all of our schools to a later start. So that's a great suggestion. I have not communicated with her yet about this. As you see, the impact of the start of the day continues to be 8 o'clock. But thank you, that's good.
So, talking about tutorial, so is it going to be on Tuesday and Thursday, and it's going to be 2, 4, 6, and then tutorial, right?
It's going to be 2, 4, 6, and then tutorial, yes.
All right, so for the students that aren't there for 6th and anything after that, does that mean that they would have to come back to the school, or how is that going to work? Because at my school, so we can leave at 5th period, or, yeah.
Well, we're going to have to talk about that because there might be a shift in culture where 6th period would be your last class. And you're talking mainly seniors, correct?
Mainly
yes.
seniors. So, yeah, because I know that at my school we have a culture of really hating that, because I've had it twice, and it just either time it didn't work. But I've had it where it has worked in middle school, so I'm willing to see how this works. I'm not gonna say no yet, but if we could get it between 2, 4 tutorial and then 6th, I think that'd be a quick little solution. I don't know how that would affect it a lot.
Can you say that again?
So have it 2, 4 tutorial 6. Yeah, because then everybody's present.
All right. See, this is still a draft, and the beauty of a draft, you can move anything around with it. So we're still working on it. We're going to meet this Thursday, but thank you for that.
That was my same question, because my daughter goes through 5th period, and she'd be like, I'm out of here. I'm not going to come back for a tutorial. Are you crazy?
That's great feedback.
So you do have that happening where seniors are leaving,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great suggestion.
Trustee Mack.
Yeah. Well, so and I'm hearing about this culture, and I get it. It goes all the way back to my era, but are we talking about changing this culture? Are we saying that we're going to no longer allow seniors to take just 5 periods, or is that just something that isn't formed yet?
That has not been formed yet.
Okay, I'll just let it be. Sorry, I don't want to get these guys worked up yet.
Yeah, we don't want to have all students here.
Yeah. But my other question is the teachers. So how does the block days, a teacher who has a schedule that causes them not to be around or not to have a 6th period, let's say. So they're in the same situation. They don't have a 6th period, but do they have to be around for block? I mean, for tutorial?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So and presumably that's their prep? Okay. Just want to make sure that's covered so I understand it. And then is the tutorial mandatory? So if a kid finishes 6th period, hey, I'm done, I'm out of here, on Tuesdays and Thursdays? Can they just leave? Or are we saying, no, you stay on campus and you go to a tutorial?
So at this,
Exactly.
so if you do not go to tutorial, yes, you are truant. That is
Okay.
correct.
Thank you. That better way of phrasing it.
Yes.
And then lunchtimes. I know the lunchtimes in the current schedule are a little wacky. What do they look like? Well, if you could show us what they are now and what they're going to be.
You know,
Or is it not yet set?
it's not yet set. None of this is set.
Okay.
So today, we're just giving a quick update of the process. So when I was developing this, this was the last slide right here.
Okay.
But I figured that the questions would be on this slide.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just being proactive and
Yeah.
anticipating your questions, I put this one in.
Okay.
Because this is going to be discussed on Thursday.
Okay.
But to answer your questions, I think the Drake schedule that we're going to modify a little bit is the one we're looking at. And I think if I'm not mistaken, that the lunch is a lot more consistent. Like now it's kind of like completely different on different days. And I think it's a lot more consistent under the Drake schedule than it is now.
That's correct.
Any more comments? So you have, Assad, go ahead.
To follow what Mr. Hugaboom said about the schedules being all over the place, on regular days at my school, at least for lunch, it is 12:50, and on block days it's 11:25. So it's a very hard adjustment going from eating around 1 o'clock to eating around 11 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The other thing I was just talking to Trustee Butler about is we also need to inform the parents. So we need to find a way to meet with the PTAs of the high schools and do some work with the parents, because even though last year I think they were a little surprised with the early start times, I think, as well. And I know we're focusing mostly on teachers and students, but I think we need to make sure we reach out to our parents before it's a final decision, so we can just get their input on that, because they've been kind of the missing component so far.
Yes, of course. Yes. I'll be collaborating with our Director of Communications.
Okay, so this is an update, and
This was
you'll be back
simply-
again, we know.
Yes, I'll be back.
Obviously for some sort of approval at some point. And
That
you've
is-
been updating us a little bit in our Friday update, so we appreciate that too.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for all this work. I mean, I think these task force have really the way to go when we have these big items like this, where we collectively bring a group together on all the stakeholders to get to a solution. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, now we'll move into our discussion action items. This is our Measure G, which is our bond measure. This is the Independent Citizens Oversight Committee. This is the acceptance of the 2016-17 annual report. You have a hard copy at your table of the newsletter, or the annual report. And I will turn it over to Mike.
Thank you. Good evening, trustees. As you recall, part of the Measure G bond requirements are to establish, appoint, and support a independent citizens oversight committee. And we have done just that. We have 7 awesome community members. Actually, we have 3 of them here tonight. The chair, who you'll hear from in just a second, Vian Shernock, the vice chair, Jeffrey Valiant, and there's Sylvia Berry over there, here to present. And like to give Sylvia an opportunity to give you a quick overview of the 2016-17 annual report, and then recommend that once we answer all your questions and concerns, that you all accept the report. So with that, I'll turn it over to Vian.
Thank you, and good evening.
Hi.
I'm really pleased to present the first annual report of your Independent Citizens Oversight Committee for Measure G fiscal year 2016-2017. Since you've all read this report, yes, of course, already, I don't need to repeat the details. And since this is only the first of what will be many such reports, I'm going to be really brief tonight, get you back on schedule. The ICOC members currently represent senior citizens, local businesses, school parents, taxpayers, PTAs, and the Nevada community at large. Our official duties are to review financial procedures and fund expenditures for Measure G. Although the ICOC didn't officially start meeting until July 2017, which was after the end of this fiscal year being reported, we've met 4 times since then. We've spent most of these first meetings learning about the Measure G program and our duties as ICOC. We elected a chair and a vice chair and completed our Form 700 Statements of Economic Interest. We learned a great deal about state rules governing such committees, the Brown Act, bond sales, and audit procedures. We visited the Marin Innovation Center during one of our meetings and tried out your new classroom furniture, and we loved it. We formed a subcommittee to prepare this annual report, and this past month we heard the 2016-17 financial and performance audit reports from the district's auditor. And I'm pleased to report that these first audits, both fiscal and performance, were totally clean. Of course, in order to understand the Measure G audits, we need to understand the bond program. Yancy, Mike, and Melissa have been incredibly helpful and transparent about their work on this program. We've seen schedules, budgets, cost projections, and illustrations for all your approved projects. We've asked tons of questions, and we've been given answers to every one of them. I'm confident that as the program progresses beyond the planning stages into real brick and mortar construction, the ICOC will continue to be engaged, interested, and knowledgeable enough to ensure that Measure G funds will be spent as intended by the voters of Novato. On behalf of the entire ICOC, I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to serve our children in their newly renovated school facilities. Thank you.
Comments, or did you have anything addition to add? No.
Nope, just
Okay.
answer any questions or concerns.
This is an action item, but if there are questions or comments, yes, Trustee Miller.
I would thank the entire committee, Sylvia and VN. We keep crossing paths, and I'm thrilled to be in the same room with you again one more time.
And Jeffrey's here.
And Jeffrey. Oh, I see Jeffrey. Yeah, I'm. Oops, my bad. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the entire committee's on this page.
Was the newsletter developed by, who put that together?
The annual report.
This,
Yeah,
or,
this.
yeah, the report. I
Sorry.
say that.
It does look
reminds
like
me
a
of a newsletter. I apologize.
We worked as a worked with the
Okay, it was a
committee
collective.
and gave them some options, and they sort of narrowed it down for us, and then we
Okay,
put it together. For
good. No, it looks really good.
Collaborative effort.
Okay, great. All right, so, yes.
I move approval.
Okay.
Get this done.
We have a comment from Trustee Scott.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you for all your hard work. I know that you guys have met many times, and I appreciate your volunteerism. And I want to say this was a great job, and I hope this is getting out to the community as well. Because I thought it was easy for folks to understand. It's a very complex conversation sometimes when you're talking about bonds and funding and projects, and I just thought this was well done. So I just wanted to say thank you for your time and great job.
Great question. We are working with the Director of Communications on how best to get this out to the public.
Okay. Leslie, you're doing a lot.
And public displays, so. She's good at her job.
Yeah. Okay, so I had a first by Trustee Miller, a second by Trustee Nell. Trustee Mack. Looking right at you. I apologize. All right. All in favor to approve the Oversight Committee's annual report? Okay. 5-0. Thank you. 6-0. 1 absent. Falling apart. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. All right. The next item is the next couple items are 2 items are Chris Koska.
Hi, thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me. Usually I come up and I try to make a joke in each of my presentations. This is something that's truly very serious. I bring forward to you a resolution around decreasing the number of certificated employees we have. This is coming about as a result of the recommendations that were approved at our last board meeting from the Budget Advisory Committee meeting. Specifically, this is the elimination of 2 instructional coaching positions and 2 coordinator positions here in our district office. having been on that side of the table in a previous position due to budget cuts, this is a very difficult time for some of our folks who've committed, some of them, 20 years of their career to our district. They will be able to continue to work in our district. We will find other positions for them should that be their choice. They'll be offered teaching positions in their credential area. I'll do everything I can to get them to a site that best meets their needs, where they can provide great services to our kids. But when your position's eliminated, it takes a little bit of your heart with you. And I just want to really honor and respect the people that are in those positions. Let them know that this isn't about them. This is about the difficult decisions that we have to make as a result of our declining enrollment, the flat funding we're receiving from the state, and the third one that jumped out of my head, the rising pension costs. So this is just a difficult thing to have to bring forward, but it's in line with the approved budget cuts from our last meeting, and so I recommend the approval of this resolution. Any questions, comments?
Okay. Trustee Millerick?
Just simply, the point I made earlier about other programs, we need to look everything with a sharp pencil, because this is the price that some of our staff are paying. And as you say, when we have a mission and your heartfelt, your whole being is to how to serve kids, and the institution has to change some of the delivery mechanisms, and you don't quite understand why. It's very painful individually, and I'm glad that you pointed that out for the entire community. So I just want to repoint that when we can cut away from faculty and away from the classroom, we need to redouble our efforts to do that. It's just disappointing that we're at a point where some of our community is going to feel less than fully served as a result of this amendment. And I will move this amendment unless somebody else has some comments, because I don't think we have a choice.
Right.
So I'll move resolution number 15.
Trustee Nell?
I'm also second the.
Okay.
I would.
Did you want to make a comment?
Nope.
Okay.
I
Oh,
said
Trustee Nell.
what I had to say.
Okay. Thank you for your comments, Trustee Millerick. All right, so we have a first by Trustee Millerick, a second by Trustee Nell. All in favor to approve this resolution to decrease the number of certificated employees due to a reduction of or elimination of particular kinds of service. All in favor? 5-0 or 6-0. One absent.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next item is to bring forward the ratification of the tentative agreement between the district and CSEA after a long and productive negotiations process. We have recently come to an agreement with CSEA that was ratified by their membership just this past week with a very, very high approval rating for the agreement. Essentially, this gave the CSEA members a 1.5 increase to each cell of the classified salary schedule. We did some other things to clean up the salary schedule. This is aligned with the agreements that we had with NFT. So accompanying the 1.5% was the increase of health and welfare benefits to match, so that we maintained a 90% contribution for single employee, 70% for employee plus one, and 60% for employee plus family. Of course, there were other changes to the contract that we think will serve the district well, and some that CSEA believes will serve their membership well moving forward. I recommend the ratification of the tentative agreement with CSEA to settle our negotiations for the 2017-18 school year.
Trustee Nell.
I don't have a lot to comment on the details of this, but I did want to say that I'll make a motion and support adoption of the new agreement, and I want to thank our CSEA staff. We always talk about cuts away from the classroom, and there's a lot of focus on the education, but the truth is we really couldn't operate without our classified staff in so many ways. And you know, I wish it could be more, actually, when it comes to the work that they do. It should be respected and honored, and sometimes I regret the priority being what it is, because I think we do need all of our employees help us to provide an education. So it's important that we recognize them and do the best we can for them. So just wanted to say that, and I'll make a motion to.
Thank you, Trustee Nell. Okay, we need a second. All right, a second by Trustee Aguila. All in favor? 6-0, 1 absent.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you. Yes.
Just to point out, I think that HR is in the middle of recruiting, and so at your places, I walked by and saw this the other day and didn't even know that we did this. So I wanted you to see the good work that's being done. So some great information about the district, and then you got the little graphic on the back. And so kudos to Chris and your staff, more importantly, because you probably didn't have anything to do with it, who put together this great work. And I know that Chris is really busy doing outreaches, going to career fairs and all that kind of stuff. And the second thing you have is a thank you note from Mary Jane Burke about the Youth Leadership Summit that was held at Walker Creek Ranch last couple weekends ago. We had 4 teachers from Novato High who were there with the kids, which is really an act of love to spend the night out at Walker Creek Ranch with the students. But it was a great retreat. You see the picture and stuff on there, but it just shows the dedication of our staff that on a special event that doesn't even have anything to do necessarily with their students, they go out there to Walker Creek to be with the kids, and that's awesome. So I just wanted to point out those 2 things.
If I could really tag on really quickly to the recruitment brochure, Jim is 100% correct that I had almost nothing to do with that. That's a work of art by Cindy. And I can tell you, when I go through that packet with a new teacher that's interested in coming to work for our district, you see them light up. When we talk about the equity imperative, we talk about the graduate profile, you see them light up, and they think that is the kind of place I want to work. So that's a testament to all of your hard work and Jim's leadership. It's just right there in a little packet for everybody to share. So I hope you enjoy that.
We need this for parents when they go on a tour. Something not exactly like this, but, and I like our new logo. It looks really good. Great. All right, Yancy, you are up for the AB 1200. This goes along with the tentative agreement we just approved, or ratifying, to ratify the tentative agreement.
All right, thank you. One of the requirements of AB 1200 is that after all agreements, collective bargaining agreements, that we must do a disclosure, and importantly, Jim and I must sign off that we can continue to make our financial commitments for the current and the next 2 years. I will almost never say this, but the information in front of you in terms of financial, I want you to take with a grain of salt. I usually want you to be very serious on that. Due to the timing of when this report, which was after first interim, but before second interim, which will include the governor's budget for the next 2 years, and most importantly, before the budget adoption, which will include the $1.5 million ongoing cuts that have been made. This report does not accurately reflect where we are at this moment, but the requirements of AB 1200 require us to go back to our last board-approved budget at that time. That being said, I think it's important to note that in this report, it shows out in the 3rd year that in order to make this and the NFT agreement that was approved in December, that cuts would have, solutions would need to be made. This notes $1.5 million out in the 3rd year. The board and the district have already moved through that difficult work, but I did want to note that that was in there. So this agreement, I can say that we can meet our financial obligations in the current and 2+ years, and I have signed off on this, and I open it up to questions.
Any questions? Okay.
I appreciate you synchronizing, I guess, the timing of the requirement of the document versus where we really are. So I'm prepared to support the motion.
So do we have a first? Is it a first?
So I'll be a first, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Trustee Scott is a second. Trustee Aguila, did you have something? No, okay. Trustee Millerick?
It's nice to know that it's your signature and the superintendent's signature that's certifying that we can make our financial commitments. So I'm sure we will continue to work hard to keep ourselves on the right side of this line. Thanks.
So first by Trustee Nell, second by Trustee Scott to approve the AB 1200. All in favor? 6-0, 1 absent. All right, and the next one's up for you, Yancey. This is the approval to award contract to the Southern Bleacher Company for new press box modular building at San Marin High School.
Thank you. I will turn this over to Mike Willard, our Executive Director of Facilities.
Okay.
And again, it's always nice to know I am standing between you and the rest of.
We have 2 more, actually.
So real quick, back in September, the board approved project to replace the press box at San Marin High School with project budget by $250,000. Following in November, the board also approved for us to go out and get some public bids. Had a little bit of issue with getting some public bids, but following the process, we were able to work with Southern Bleacher, a reputable company out of Texas who does this quite often for large schools, to get a bid from them, $174,900. Just wanted to go over real quick what that does cover. It's an 8-foot by 30-foot modular facility divided into 3 rooms. We have a roof access from the middle room for the videoing of the sports. It also includes a steel understructure. We will be elevating this building 12 feet off the ground, whereas the current one is on the ground, but it's above the snack shack. This also includes a stair tower and supporting structure for that, and all of the footings and columns for the support structure for the building itself. And I apologize, I just got some drawings today, literally. Just to give you, these are pre-DSA approval, but we're going through that, going to submit that by the end of the month. Just to give you an idea of what it is, it's basically a box looking off the ground. This is the field side with the windows looking towards the field with the fenced-in rooftop access. There's a side view. We have side windows and a stair platform off the back, so the landing for the door. And then we have a stair landing, split landing to get the pitch right. So we kind of go up, hit the landing, and go back up to the floor. So pretty much all inclusive, well within our project budget. We still expect to be on or below the initial board approved budget. And just wanted to get your board approval tonight to award the contract to Southern Bleacher for the amount of $174,900 out of Fund 20.
Can I ask a question? Yeah, I'm just curious, is this unconditioned space, does this have any kind of heat mechanism in it or cooling mechanism in it?
It will be a conditioned space because of the audio system, sound system we're putting in there for that.
Okay.
New sound system we also approved. So we'll have not your typical system like we're putting in San Jose. It'll be sort of a wall mounted up here for each individual room to cool and heat just that specific.
And just one more question, if I may. Do you know if those windows slide open?
I do not believe they will be.
They will not be.
I will double check.
Okay. I'm just curious. I'm curious about the safety issue around that, and I'm curious in terms of, ventilation. I mean, I know sometimes we play a hot day, and, that just seems like a cook box maybe. I don't know. Oh, okay. All right. I was just curious.
Because we have to keep the electronic equipment cool.
Okay.
Cold.
Okay.
And I'll double check on that.
Yeah, I was just curious. Thank you.
Can you walk underneath that? Is that all
Well,
open?
we're gonna have chain link fence around the structure.
Oh.
But you will have a little bit of shade. We have the option of extending the chained in portion so you can't get under.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That is a good question and no answer. So.
And I was surprised, it was interesting to read that no bids for several.
We had some interesting history, but we used a previous design that was developed by some of the sports boosters at San Marin that was a couple years old.
Mhm.
This industry had changed a little bit since then, so what we had put out for bid wasn't
Got
really
it.
the new standard, so we finally figured that out and went back out with
Okay.
the newer standard.
Okay, thank you. All right, trustee Miller, trustee Nell. I mean,
What's
trustee
the
Mack.
situation with the ADA and elevator? Do we need an elevator? And if, how does that work?
Again, it's a field act compliance. We're not gonna be field act compliant with this because we don't expect students. It's not a classroom space, and we don't have to have ADA access, or an elevator, I'm sorry, ADA access over 12 feet height, which.
Okay, so if it's not Field Act compliant and it's not therefore suitable for student use, we need to make sure somehow that students aren't up in that box and participating in the activities they're in. Because what I do not want to do is have a program where only the healthy students can participate, and the ones that need a wheelchair or crutches or some other limitation can't participate. So we basically, by dancing around the issue, have violated the intention of California law and have reinstituted a system where able-bodied people can participate and not able-bodied people cannot. So how are we going to make sure that no student can get into that area? Because I know at Novato High, students are up in that booth all the time. It's one of the perks of being one in the cheer program or the football program or the other athletic program. You get to go and spend time with the announcer. And if it's not compliant, we need to make sure they're not there. I mean, we either got to comply with the law and put an elevator in and make everybody available, or not. And if it's not, that's fine, but let's get it right.
Trustee Mack.
And that was my question as well, ADA, because I just see the stairs and I think, where's the ramp? So I totally agree. In Novato High, there's students in there all the time, and sometimes they're in there for a reason, like they're MSA kids filming up top, those sort of things. Although that's not ADA because it's a ladder to get up there. But anyway, that's a different story. But there are, or to sing the national anthem. So I think we got an issue here, to be honest. And more fundamentally, though, when I pictured this, I never pictured it being elevated. I was kind of under the mistaken impression it was just going to sit on the back row there, and kind of like what Novato's is set up. And it's it doesn't. I didn't think it needed to be elevated.
Initially it was, and we did some field verification, and you didn't have the height of eye you needed to see the entire field, with people even sitting. Best case scenario, you're standing in the booth and somebody's sitting in that last row bleeding. You couldn't see the entire field. We had an angle and a height of eye problem.
And I know you referred to the 12 feet, and so is it an all or nothing? You're either 12 feet or you're nothing?
Right, we couldn't elevate it just 5 feet.
Okay.
Or you could, you'd have to add more structure to go up to the rear.
Because I mean, if you, yeah, it's too bad because if you did 4 feet, which is probably all you need, you could do a ramp.
We could look into that option.
Yeah, it might be. Anyway, I'm not. You guys know more than me about this. And then the other question I had. Oh God. Security. So when the press box went at Novato High in 06 or whatever year it was, it just had the windows and great. The windows lock. That was not good enough. We had to put up the roll-up security doors and the grate on the back window.
Unlike Novato, you have access to that box all the way around.
Sure.
This one, unless you could levitate 12 feet on the front side where the windows are, you won't have access to it. And the only way to access
Right.
is from the lockable door. And of course, if someone climbed on top, it's the access to the roof.
Yeah, kids get creative, especially at football fields at midnight.
Especially with
So-
the fence around it, they're gonna climb the
We're gonna do everything
fence.
we can to make this
Yeah,
secure, because again, we're gonna put a pretty hefty new sound system equipment.
exactly.
Yes, we plan on using a lockbox inside.
But I would encourage if there's a way to bring it down and ramp it, because students are gonna need to get in there. Yeah, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. No, I totally agree. I totally agree. Yeah.
Of note is, we're getting ready to get to DSA review, trying to keep this on a kind of tight timeline for the seasons. And as it is, we're probably not gonna have it done until the end of September, which impacts football season. We're probably looking at a temporary platform to use as a press box.
I'm not trying to make your life hard.
No, I
say,
it is what it is. I definitely
you
want
can't
to
leave this district and have the rules for everybody except for the football team, and then the rules are different. It's either ADA for federal state law for everybody or not.
I will talk to the designer and see what options are available, if any, if we're able to lower the height and put in the ramp and.
Sure.
Yeah, Novato High has the ramp, right? The Novato High has the ramp in the back. And you can access, but you can still access the press box.
Absolutely. All the way around the back.
Yeah.
I think the difference, Nevada's game is the bleachers. So
Yeah.
It's for the bleachers, right, yeah.
Right.
This is,
I understand. I
But
just,
then again, if you do lower it, then remember, you need to add the roll-up doors. You're gonna need, because people are gonna break those windows and go after that equipment. And when you have those roll-up doors in there, it's game over. They don't even know what's in there. So, anyway.
Good experience. Thank you.
Trustee Nell. You're
I don't,
itching to say something.
we're not ready to move ahead on this plan. I mean, it's not ADA compliant, it isn't secure. So, I mean, are we being asked to approve this tonight? I mean, we're not ready.
On action.
Yeah. I'm kind of leaning towards where you are, Trustee Nell. I just don't feel comfortable enough based on what other comments that I've heard.
Students have to have access to this, period.
So, this space is not a instructional space. Instructional, the Field Act is clear that it's for instructional space. This space key is for adults, and it is not Field Act compliant, but it does not have to be. And it does not bar access for any students. Students can sign, parents can sign a permission slip that allows them to be in a non-Field Act compliant building, but not for non-instruction. So I want to be clear that the building right now was far from Field Act compliant that we have at the building right now.
Yeah.
And this building is a press box. It is meant for adults. When we come back, when we potentially do the food service building, or we do the maintenance building, or other buildings like that, they will not be Field Act compliant because that is not the requirement of our student. ADA requirements were put in place for the access of our students to instructional spaces, and this is not that. The 12 foot is is around safety around. It's just not safe to have a building up around that because of head clearance and all those kind of other things, and that's where there is a 12-foot clearance. This is in line with many throughout the state, including St. Helena is putting in basically this exact unit in the next month or so. It is. We've checked with legal on it. It is okay. But the only thing is that we could not have an instructional program in there, and so that is clear that we will not be able to, if we wanted to run a program that was a sports video program and that was going to be the instructional space, that would not be allowed. But I think the increase in cost, if you're gonna add, you're adding $500,000 to put in a elevator, to do this. And as Mike noted, the sightlines do not work for a facility right on top. So unless the district is willing to put in probably close to $1 million on this project for very little additional space, I don't see another way forward. I will also note, which Mike noted, that the timeline is an issue on this project. We're trying to, and I know this is we're trying to hit all of our deadlines on these projects, and it is a very complicated with 3 to 4 separate projects going on that field this summer and into the fall. It is going to be important that that is not delayed. If there is interest in potentially looking at an increasing cost on this project of that, then I think that is absolutely valid. If we're not, then I think this is absolutely the best avenue for the district and the program.
Trustee Millerick and then Trustee Mack.
Your position makes perfect sense to me, and I understand that we have had bits and pieces of this conversation up till now, and I don't think this is a bad judgment at all that we say, okay, it's not an instructional space. But I think the minute you have a student singing from the choir program, the national anthem, or the minute you have the kids running video cameras from the video program, it is an instructional space. I think your premise is false. So I think if you say we cannot use the facility for students to do instructional purposes, then and it's restricted to adults, then it's fine. But then we have to enforce that. We cannot be in the most public space on that entire campus. We can't be saying we have rules about ADA inclusion except for this one thing because, and it's the most public place on the entire campus. It's the largest gathering place on the entire campus. And in that environment, we don't honor or respect those instructional rules. So if this board says, no, we're not going to allow students into that facility as part of their instructional program, and that includes singing the national anthem, and it includes running video cameras, and it includes playing music, and the adults, Patty Nave, can go up and play the videotape, but the kid can't, I'm fine with it. But if we got to play by our rules. We can't, that's, it's the most public place on the entire campus. And that's my dilemma. And clearly at Novato High, we have a ramp, and it's accessible. And I know an elevator is going to cost $500,000. You're absolutely right. And I appreciate why you came forward with this, because it's going to be the whole thing will be $1 million, and the community would want to know why we just didn't leave the old funny little snack shack the way it was, which is not ADA compliant. It's not even health code compliant.
No.
I mean, it's counting rats in the food pantry. Okay. Yeah. So I'm okay if we approve it, but only with the condition that we use it according to the rules that we have to live by, and that means no students.
Trustee Mack.
I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around why we can't just lower it to 4 feet and put siding all the way around down to the ground. Nobody will walk into it. It'll be fine. I don't get why we can't just use that solution and do a ramp. You know what I mean?
You also there's a couple things around that. The space in between where that between the baseball field and the football field, and where you would put this to keep sight lines. Yeah. If you move into getting, depending on how high your building is, the ramp now has to be wider to lead up to it, and it is taking up more space, and now you start to have ADA access.
Then the stairs.
Then the stairs, yes, it's going to be wider than the stairs, and you start to have ADA access issues around
getting to the first base side of the baseball diamond.
To get there. So you're opening yourself up for ADA access that is going to impact a lot of people. And the bigger issue there is that it potentially puts the lights project and the other projects
I get that. Yeah.
at risk.
We're delaying. I get that.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get it right, not just to get it done. But I would argue, though, that the concern about ADA and the baseball side,
yeah,
that's fairly moot, because that side is, when you get to the diamond itself, and Debbie, you've been there a lot for baseball too, it's elevated. It's like 2 steps up. They can't go there anyway. We're already not compliant on that side.
It's the football side to get all the way to the end of the bleachers.
Get around the booth,
to
get down to the other. Okay, got it. Okay,
there we have
Makes more
ADA
sense now.
accessible spots over on both sides, and
so basically, ADA would only get to the north end of the field. They would be able to get to the
you
southern
wouldn't be
end
able to get to
of
both sides
stands.
of the field, and so that is an issue. We've looked at a lot of different items on this. It's been a frustrating to come up with where we want to be on this. This was the option that gave us the most similar to what we had, except that it was safe and health code compliant. And yeah, there are issues with that. There are. One thing I will note with the additional new audio equipment and everything like that, there still will be the videotaping issue that Trustee Millerick noted, but we definitely will be able to have students sing the national anthem and do that with microphones and stuff like that on the field or up in the booth. So we will have a lot more ability to do that, but you will have the filming issues that potentially that Trustee Millerick noted.
Yes.
I would move adoption of this with the provision that students not be allowed, that we recognize students aren't allowed to do instructional programs in this facility. Because I think upsetting the entire apple cart up at the San Marin Field, I mean, what we're saying is 5 or 6 students who do videoing or singers aren't allowed in here. We just got through adopting a motion where we basically moved the entire program off of our campus because we have budget constraints. So why are we jumping up and down crazy? Kids can't video out of here and kids can't sing here. Those 6 students don't get to use this facility. And that's just another constraint we have in this district. And they happen to be athletic students, but too bad. We already got rid of the Nexus students.
They'll still be able to do those things, it's just not in an ideal situation, which is what we're used to, of them going in that press box.
They don't
and
get
it
to do
just-
that. They don't get to do that.
But yeah, I know. That my concern is the enforcement of the no.
Well,
is that really going to happen? And I just don't see it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, neither do I. But the fact is, I don't see why we need. I mean, I think we have to put it on our staff to do it. And
yeah.
What's going to happen is that somebody's going to sue us, and we will get to enforce it as
We're
a result
accountable.
of. As a result of this action, I mean, our finance officer said St. Helena's doing it, and they're just restricting student access to these facilities. So
right.
there's a path forward, and not building the San Marin Field with all the things we've got going up there, the turf and the other facilities, and delaying an entire year seems to me like it impacts an awful lot of students. I mean, what if we have to shut down the field because the cork doesn't properly test for impact like they had to do down at Terra Linda?
Terra Linda, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, then we're going to impact, 10 sports teams, not 3 singers.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I mean, that's my dilemma is we don't have a good choice here, and dropping another $500,000 doesn't seem like a good choice either. So
we either can do nothing, and which is not the right decision, or we spend $500,000 to put it, and that's not possible.
As much as I don't like this,
are.
I'll move adoption of awarding the contract item E and C, what the board thinks. That way it's a
Trustee Aguila has a comment, question.
But do you see the possibility of the students being able to still do what they need to do, just not there, but they can still do the filming, the singing, whatever, but just not there? You see that possibility, right?
We'll obviously do everything we can. Like I said, we can do portable microphones so they can be on the field, they can be down there for singing. We could potentially use electronic cameras as that gets evolved to move forward. But as Trustee Millerick did note, there will be an impact. But the other options are either cost prohibitive or I don't believe that we should keep the other option of just keeping the current is worse and more I think significantly more dangerous.
So the answer is yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Trustee Nell.
All right, so stinks.
Yeah.
But it's the only choice we have right now, so I will support the recommendation.
We need a second, right?
Yes. Would you like to make that second? Oh, I'll second it. You'll second it, yes. Trustee Millerick is first, Trustee Nell is a second. Okay. I think we're all in that. We're all in the same boat. So this is to award approval to award contract to Southern Bleacher Company for the new press box modular building at San Marin High School. So all in favor? Yeah. 6-0, 1 absent. All right, we still have 2 items left on that we pulled from consent. These are the 2 items I pulled, and these will be brief. The only reason I pulled item C, 16C, which is the approval updated salary schedule for classified staff, is because we would have approved it prior to approving the ratifying of the agreement and the AB 1200, and that's just not the right process. So I will move on that one.
Second measures.
Okay, so first by Trustee Butler, second by Trustee Millerick, all in favor? 6-0. And then just to highlight, this is item 16F. This is acceptance of the grant funds from the William H. Donner Foundation to San Marin High School. And just to highlight, to thank them for their generous donation. And they've been, I think they've given over $150,000 over the last of 3 years to our district. And so I just want a big thank you to them. These funds will go to the Stadium Light project at San Marin High School, and a portion of that will go to the scoreboard at San Marin High School. So I will move on that one as well.
I'll second.
Okay, a first by Trustee Butler, a second by Trustee Scott. All in favor? 6-0. Okay, the open session is adjourned. The board will go back into closed session. And when we complete closed session, we will come out and make announcements as necessary and adjourn the meeting completely. Thank you.